Hello, everyone, and welcome to the $1,600 Ultimate Stack final table here from the Venetian Resort, Las Vegas. My name is Donnie Peters, and I am joined by Tristan Wade today. 508 players are down to the final 7 as we get a fabulous look at this brand new room here at the Venetian Resort. And let me tell you, every time I walk into this place, I get a little bit of chills, a little bit of goosebumps, as should these guys right here playing for $131,000 up top.
What's up, Donnie? Happy to be here. This is a sick final table. A lot of known names, at least in the poker industry. And yeah, look at the stacks.
I think it was just
Big chip leader here, Paul Lozano Martin. If you guys tuned in to our final table coverage of the Card Player Poker Tour event about a month ago, he was there in that one, and he's back here today, and he's got right around double second place in chips. We have that man right there, Jeremy Becker. I think everyone knows his name these days. Patrick Leonard in the shades right here, a.k.a. Pads.
Legend.
Absolute legend, of course. He's got Adam Adler on one side of him, Brek Schutten on the other side of him.
If you don't win the first.
loco.
If you don't win the first, you can't win them all. Jeremy Becker going to start this one off with a raise, King 10 off.
Offsuit Broadway is playable from that position, even though you got the chip leader to your left. So should be pretty interesting final table dynamics with a chip leader having so many chips. There is one short stack
Get it in hand one.
under 10 bigs, but aside from that,
Like, am I being set up?
nobody too much in the danger zone.
Yeah, and I know you have a lot of experience, Tristan, playing with several of these players, as do I, which is always fun. Speaking to the chip leader, Martin, you know, I know he took that hand off, but I would expect him to get after it, you know, eventually. So I'm sure we'll see plenty of aggro play from him, especially if, you know, somebody remains short like Gafford is right now, because then everyone else is kind of in that ICM jail cell that they can't really get out of.
The graphics up, wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see how people will combat this stacks discrepancy. There we see Becker fold ace-6 suited. That could have been an open. He just got away with one. But yeah, I mean, this is a spot where the chip leader needs to be aggressive, but he's against a lot of accomplished players. Maybe they don't care about ICM as much, right? ICM is for poor people, they say.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I'll tell you that in my experience watching Schutten play, he will not care about ICM. Pads, I feel like, always wants to do the best thing. It doesn't matter if first place is $10 or $10 million. He's just going to, like, try and make the best in-game decision at all points. So, you know, Pads is a guy who I think he's got right around $3.5, $4 million in live earnings, you know, tens of millions and more online. So 131K up top for him might not be the biggest score, but again, he's a gamesman, he's a strategist. He wants to just always make the best play, and he won't go home happy unless he knows he played his A game.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. He's a competitor. He puts more time into poker than most people I know, and that's me viewing from a distance. So he definitely cares, and this is a tricky spot here with King 7 off. He's got a hand that could be used as a bluff, could even call to see a flop, but he might just fold. But like you said, Brek does get after it. So you can see Leonard has a decision here. He's really uncertain.
Leonard did limp here from the small blind, and Schutten hit him with a 3-bet. Leonard is going to give it up there.
He's not seeing a free flop.
Might not have wanted to, but gives it up anyway.
Yeah, the King 7 off from the small blind is one of those interesting hands. You really can't go wrong with what you do, but that's a more passive route that's more aligned with ICM approach there by Pads.
Yeah, and maybe he takes a little bit of a different approach if Gafford's not there with his 8 big blind stack. You know, maybe Pads does decide to get aggressive there, but
I noticed Brek did cover him by over $1.5 million, so it's better just to be on the cautious side there.
Actually, yeah. Aces would count as 2.
600 behind.
6 behind.
Yeah.
It's a close spot with king 7 off. I mean, with the pay jumps, you could just fold, but it is one of those hands you could V-pip, voluntarily put chips in the pot. If you ever heard of that
Oh, yes.
slang, V-pip, right? All the viewers are aware with V-pip, right?
And so far, we have not seen the chip leader get active yet. I do always find it interesting when you come into these final tables from where we sit, from the commentator booth. You know, we're coming in cold, but these players might have been
one of my
playing with
favorite
some of
guys.
these guys since day one, several days
calling,
ago, right? So
Yeah.
they might have some different information. My guess is because we haven't seen the chip leader Martin come in yet, maybe he's taking it as sort of a feeler out period right now, maybe trying to get a feel for how these guys are playing, what's happening,
6-4 off.
how they're going to approach things, you know, that sort of thing, before he starts, like, kind of getting active. Or maybe he's just going to play snug. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, that's a good strategy. When you keep getting dealt, you know, trash, you can't, even if you're the chip leader and you're getting trash, you can't do much. You know, you're looking down a 9-3 off, 8-4 off. An ace-3 off is a reasonable open there, but as a chip leader, I guess he decides to fold that.
Well,
You
160.
know, an open from those type of hands would pressure a stack here, like we see Gerald with, where what would he do facing a raise with ace-8 suited? He might just be inclined to fold. So, to your point, yeah, the chip leader, that was one opportunity we saw in the first 4 hands he could have taken advantage of.
Yeah, so we'll file that one away, and we'll just kind of pay attention to how he's approaching things as we see Jerry here. Cunniff gets that one through. Well done by him. Jerry is retired out of Minnesota, has
Why are you letting
almost
me-
740K in live tournament
Ace 10 right?
earnings. His biggest win,
Embarrassing.
95K. Back in 2022, he won the MSPT South Dakota State Championship. So a win here today would be Cunniff's largest ever live tournament
Oh, I'm
score.
sorry.
Bradley Gafford here, our short stack, who's Jack 6 off on the button is not good enough, even though he's working with right around 10 bigs. Poker player out of
40 more,
San
right?
Diego, won the 2023 WSOP mini main event. He won that event for 550K. He beat Josh Reichert in
chip
heads-up
leader.
play. Becker limps in here against the chip leader. Martin checks back, 4 deuce off. King 10-10, 2
I'll check.
hearts.
So these kind of hands that the chip leader has in the big blind, 4 deuce off, typically like to isolate pre-flop to play a range advantage kind of scenario. But maybe he is really just going to start this final table very passively as we see now.
Bet
And this
90.
board's definitely favoring Becker at this point.
Did you look up the word scared last night?
90K announced as a bet, and before he could even put the chips out, Martin folds.
Top 2.
How are you going to be able to taunt?
So I like the Miami Dolphins colors we have for chips
Yeah.
here, but the
great.
blues are what, 5K? The orange are 25K?
Yes, I
and
believe
the
so.
brown are 100K, I imagine.
If I get to the break, of course.
I'm a sucker for a good chip set. I always have been. You know, I like when chip sets are appropriately colored in terms
In
of
there, but not in there.
each denomination being distinguishable from the next, which these are very distinguishable from the next. So, you know, I'm a big fan.
Yep.
A couple of 9s here for Adler under the gun.
Definitely a raise, but tinkering on the situation where you may want to start avoiding some raises. So like 6s in the muck, 7s potentially in the muck here. But yeah, 9s is an easy play.
And Schutten here, you know, King Jack off, facing it under the gun open, may not be the best sit thing, but, you know, we know he can lean aggressive. So a little bit of a pause there. He ultimately does give it up. Action over to Cunniff, who's going to make the call. Queen deuce suited from the big blind.
So this is, you know, very close of a call, in my opinion, from the big blind. You do have a high card in suitedness, so that's nice. But when you're dealing with a real short stack and an under-the-gun open where ranges are going to be tight, you might just want to consider folding some of your weakest high card suited stuff.
10-7-3 rainbow here, 1 diamond out there. Adler does come with continuation for 105,000. Wonder if Cunniff is thinking about. Okay, fold. I thought he might be thinking about like check raise or something.
Yeah, I mean, look, if that deuce was more wrapped between the 3 and the 7 on 10-7-3 than a queen 4 suited, a queen 5 suited with a backdoor, a queen 6 suited that picks up more equity on turns and rivers, can be a barreling kind of hand. So the thought there is valid, but just a little too loose, I would think. Or even wrapped between the 7 and the 10, like queen 8 suited, queen 9 suited. And that comes from just having no showdown value in your queen high, where you want to turn that into a bluff and kind of like a blocker. If you do get called, you might have some equity with an overcard as well.
I knew we brought you here for a reason. I mean,
Hopefully.
Hopefully the people out there are listening, because it's great stuff, and we've been here for 10 minutes, so love it.
20 plus years trying to understand this game, and I still don't know a damn thing.
500.
Well, they say, 10 minutes to learn, a lifetime to master. If that, might need 3 lifetimes to master it.
It's the truth.
So Gafford with one of those committing raises, just about all of his chips with ace-10 off. You saw Becker get out of the way with queen-jack suited. No takers here. And I know it's not much, but when you're this short, it certainly helps. You are able to pick up 200K there, just like Gafford. The final 7 players here are guaranteed just under $22,000. The buy-in for this tournament was $1,600. Up top, $131,000.
Yeah, I mean, these are sick tournaments. The Venetian's doing a killer job, as we see another hand that's going to give thought and obviously strong enough to risk it all here. But yeah, Venetian's putting on great events. This is what, a 5-day tournament? 3 starting days, a day 2, and then a live stream final table. So come on down and play, because these are great competitions and a lot of fun.
650.
Yeah, we see Gafford here raising to 650, another committing raise. I've been really wanting to play. I mean, I've just been having to work and having to do commentary like this, of course. But I'm dying to get out there in these events. They look so good. Everyone that I've talked to says they're extremely well run. They're valuable from a player perspective.
Whatever number
So
comes up first in my head.
I'm looking forward to diving in there myself eventually.
Yeah, I've seen you playing a lot more in the last year or so, so
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be in here tangling it up.
I mean, the room looks
I
amazing.
used to be one,
So
but then
I'm ready to get out there for sure.
get into the theory.
So, I mean, just looking at the stacks here, you can kind of see there's obviously a clear runaway for chip leader, and then you got
Big solver.
Schutten in second, and then everyone else is kind of moseying around
I'll tell
between
you,
1 and 2
solver says
million. So
160.
this is really anyone's tournament. It could be a quick shake-up. Here's a confrontation. How does tens want to proceed here facing a raise from a 30 big blind stack? This is a hand that typically in a chip EV format would want to get a lot of money in, but it looks like Adler's going to take a more passive route, which is reasonable here given the stack distribution. This is a hand, ace-9 suited. I mean, it typically just likes to see the flop, but you never know what people choose to do.
Yeah, of course.
This is the beauty of the game.
So Schutten does come along here. We're going to go 3 ways. Schutten, Becker, and Adler. 6, 5, 3 could force some action. 2 overpairs are out there. Becker has the second best hand, but he does have a gutter, and he was the pre-flop raiser.
So you got to ask yourself, would Becker be opening 3s, 4s, 5s in this position? Potentially, right? If not, this gives a range
235.
advantage, obviously, to the big blind or the button if you think the button will flat call those. So same thing you want to ask Adam. Does Adam flat 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s on the button here? And that's how you start breaking down someone's range.
And then as things pertain to Becker, you know, you open 7s early position. Can you get a much better flop? I mean, I know there are some range advantages out there for your opponents, yes, but how often are you going to flop an overpair with 7s, right? So he's naturally going to continue here, and he does so for 235.
Yeah, kind of an interesting spot. Becker was in first. Should he be betting this flop is the first thing you want to ask yourself, because if a lot of money gets in, you don't love it.
500,000.
Now, Adam here, this is more of a traditional play he's made. I have an overpair with 2 10s. I need to protect and get value now. I need to watch out for overcards that might come and hurt the value of my hand, so I'm going to raise now. And this isn't something you would expect to see all the time. And now Becker's really in a tough spot. He's not going to fold, but do you want to bluff shove, quote unquote, your hand to try to get some equity to fold out? But no, he just takes the let's see a turn card and realize my
110.
equity at this point. And Adler's got to be a little concerned now because Becker could have the jacks, queens, kings, aces in his range at this point.
Becker does make the call, 1.6 million out there. Queen on the turn. Becker checks.
And notice Adam's stack 1.2 into 1.6. Now, you might not be able to jam and get called by worse here with 10s when an overcard comes. So I think checking here is an option. He's got to be a little concerned about getting called by Becker on the flop.
Bet 325,000.
325 here, so sizing down quite a bit here.
Sorry, you have like 8 more? More.
Interesting. Interesting, Mr. Peters. We see this equity denying 20% pot bet. I kind of like it. I mean, it sucks if you get jammed on here. That would be an interesting thing to see. But this is a lot of strength from Adam Adler here. So I think Becker's very concerned. But he says, look, I'm drawn to the nuts, potentially with a 4. Maybe my 7's still good. So seems reasonable here, given your pot odds to call. Putting in 300 to win 2.3 million.
Jack of diamonds here appears on the river, 2.25 out there. Becker checks once again.
And undoubtedly now 10s just wants to get to showdown. I don't see another chip being put in the pot here.
I mean, if he is able to find some sort of value bet here, I'm just going to tip my cap to him. But I do agree with you that I think check is preferred. He does check
I'm not
behind.
gonna win, I don't think.
And you hear Becker say, I'm not going to win, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
And
Yeah,
Becker looks a little surprised, confused.
yeah, I think it is one of those spots where, like I said, Adam kind of calls with a pretty good hand pre-flop that could have been more aggressive, and then he got raised in a spot where he's supposed to have all the better hands. So
I think it's a
kudos
pay
to Adam Adler for playing that a little aggressively post-flop, and kind of just an unfortunate flop. And then we could maybe go back to Becker. Should Becker be betting that flop multi-way, because you get yourself into trouble betting weaker parts of your range multi-way like that, and that's kind of what we saw.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
pot would have been a lot
Most
smaller
of
had he
the-
played it as a
it
check
gets
call on the flop.
edited down.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times if you're in Becker's shoes there, at least in my experience, a bet is almost the same as a check, simply because you're probably going to get called, I guess, kind of wide-ish from your opponent, like based on what he already played pre-flop. So what I'm getting at is you're going to kind of be in this no man's land on the turn in like a lot of spots. You know, I mean, what's the best turn card for you? Obviously a 7 and a 4, yes, but other than that, it's still going to be pretty tricky because he can have hands like he has where he has you beat. Maybe there's a chance he's already in there with 6s that flop the set, so it does get tricky. So we do see Martin here finally get involved, raises with pocket deuces, and Schutten just immediately throws the hammer down and just 3-bets him to win that one. So clearly Brek not scared of the chip leader, which I think coming into this final table, I know you and I were talking before we got on air how we expect that from Brek. You know, he's in all the times over the years, ever since he really broke out onto the scene, he's never been one to back down. He's always, if there was ever a chance where you could pick aggression or, you know, being conservative, he's picked aggression, right? So certainly willing to get after it.
200,000.
Another raise here from Martin, 200K again. The blinds did go up, by the way, 50, 100,000.
Blinds have gone up now to 100,000, so that will change these stack sizes as we go ahead and look.
Yeah, so Paul Lozano Martin up on top still, right around the same stack that he started with. Bradley Gafford still bringing up the rear here, but a little bit more chips than what he started with. The only problem for him is that the blinds went up, as Tristan just mentioned, so he's still working with just about 8 bigs. Becker, the second shortest. Pads, Patrick Leonard hasn't really gotten too involved here, sitting on 2.14 million. So there is always that feeling out portion of the beginning of a final table. You know, combine that with I think no one wants to bust first. You know, you don't want to be that guy that showed up and then went out first.
Yep.
I mean, sometimes, yes, naturally collisions are going to happen, and maybe we see one here as Adler's dealt the ace-king, but, you know, always seems to be a little bit of caution, and then once one person goes out, everyone's like, okay, you know, I wasn't the first, so now let's go. Let's start playing.
People sleep, you know, you make the final table, you dream of winning all the money, the trophy, the big lion head and stuff, and then you get here and you're just like, it's game time. I don't want to quit. I don't want to lose yet.
Well, we are definitely going to see a clash here. The only issue is that both players have the same hand. Martin finds ace-king off of his own in the big blind.
Definitely will be a confrontation. Martin incentivized to really apply some pressure here. From the big blind, you don't have as many bluffs as you typically would from other positions, but you definitely have value in ace-king.
Raise 750.
And Adam probably likes to see this. Just, I'm getting 3-bet, I'm going to put the money in, and it is what it is. I don't have to play post-flop. Sure, you're a little troublesome or worried about running into queens or kings here, but the chip leader should have enough bluffs where you just happily stick it in and hopefully he folds. And if he calls, you have obviously a pretty good hand in the 4th best hand, ace-king.
A little bit of thought here from Adler, but would agree with Tristan that the money's just going to inevitably go in here.
Speaking on the semantics of stack sizes, as we see these players just get the money in. Had Adam had like a stack similar to Brek's of 40 bigs, we might see some more flat calls here with ace-king offsuit because you could dominate some of the 3-bet bluffs from the big blind. But with 30 bigs, you don't really have that flexibility to play post-flop and screw around as much.
Adler does jam. Martin snaps him off.
You would hearts as well.
You know, you probably
You would hearts as well.
get a little bit of a pitting feeling in your stomach, but Martin tables the same hand, ace-king, so all good here unless somebody 4-flushes this one.
Yeah, you hate getting snapped off there. You love to see ace-king.
King, queen, 5. So there will be no flush here. Chop it up.
On a rainbow board, no offsuit hand can make a flush for any of my amateur poker players out there.
So all that excitement for a whole bunch of nothing.
Yep, Paul actually
They lost a little bit.
loses some chips because he paid the big blind and the big blind ante. I mean, he profits, but he doesn't profit as much as Adam in that hand.
So Adler here still third in chips, 3.2 million for him. Lozano Martin still up on top, feeling strong, 72 big blinds. And, you know, there's going to be some dancing with Cunniff and Becker specifically because they're short, but they still have Gafford behind them, who's the shortest. Gafford not going to play the king deuce off. And Becker finds 2 10s here on the button.
Yum, yum. Typically, you would want to raise top of range here and induce the small blind or big blind. But with these stack distribution, I mean, I still think that's the best play, but
I'll just bet all in.
but yeah, we do see an all in here.
And he did it
Well,
essentially mirroring the thoughts that you said. I guess I'll just put it all in because, you know, I got this guy with 8 big blinds over here. Like, you know, let's just, we don't need to get cute. All of it.
And it's the reason
should've
being
just
is you don't let a hand like 6-7 suited get to the flop and outflop you,
Yeah, you would've
given
gotten a
the
call.
situation of the tournament.
Huh?
You would have
But
gotten a call if you raised.
I mean,
as we
it's
hear
not
them speaking about, maybe you do want to raise 2 10s and let him flop a 7 and you double up. So it's give and take.
I don't know what to do. I'll just go all in.
all three were on the table there.
And Becker is strategizing himself. But yeah, I would argue with a hand that strong as 10s, you probably want to just raise. But again, it's weird with these stack sizes. I'm in the booth, they're at the table, so I can only say so much, Don.
You know what? I should ask.
Oh, we can see the cards.
I know it always
I owe you
helps.
a show.
You owe me a show.
You could have used it right there.
Pads here.
Ask him, he'll tell
Under the
me.
gun finds ace
I
6
said you'd be honest,
suited
I can
and
just ask you.
Honest poker.
just puts it into the muck.
Same
Man
thing.
makes a very
Probably
good
won't
point.
question anything he does today. And Becker in an even more
After this,
uncomfortable
yeah,
spot than he was last time because he has
Have an automatic
worse
go
hand
out.
strength
It's a
in a
bit of
worse
voice.
position. So this hand would typically be an all-in because you have the chip leader on the button and now 2 blinds to get by. So is he going to go for 2?
And he's also off a slightly larger stack here, just over 15 bigs.
You know what? I'm going to switch it up. I'm just going to bet $1 million this time. All right?
So effectively an all-in here, pending multiple crazy actions behind him.
And I do like this jam more than I like the last one.
So I'm still in the game here. Shit goes south.
Well, Adler's not going to play the 10 deuce off, of course, and Becker gets that one through, his second in a row.
Huh?
I mean, those are big pickups. He just went from 1.2 to
It's tough to get there.
1.7. So, I mean, even 1.8. So even though he's not doubling up, winning the 250K at a time.
Oh, is that
can add
Austin
up.
Powers?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen it, but I know about it.
But you're probably too young for that.
I'm older than I look, man. 28. Nothing to sneeze at.
It's a good
Almost.
age.
I'm turning 29 this month.
28 is a good age.
What are you at?
28.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
When's your birthday?
December.
Wow.
Sad,
Yeah.
baby. Let's go.
96.
Who would have guessed I'm older than him here? Not one person. Right? Wow.
Gafford here finds ace king suited, facing an open from Schutten under the gun.
All in.
And he is going to jam here. And jacks for Jeremy Becker.
How
Fireworks.
much is it?
And he asks how much it is.
Picking up some hands here.
Make sure these are even here, not on the slope.
This is an interesting spot
And
for
you didn't do
jacks,
your
given
usual
the positions of these
monster
actions in
stack.
front of you.
Absolutely, Donnie. This is
830 looks right.
not easy at all. And Becker still has 4 players left to act behind him. So, you know, does Jacks go in? Typically, yes. It just puts the money in here. Brek's going to be raising a wide enough range. Gafford's going to be all in with 8s and 9s and ace-jack suited and stuff. But this is for Becker's tournament potentially too. So it's worth a thought.
You know what? We were born in the same year. I'll give him the action. I'll call him 830.
So Becker announces a call.
A 96 baby's getting this one. Probably. I mean, most likely.
Action quickly folding. And Leonard had
Oh my
aces.
God.
Oh my!
Holy crap.
I don't know if anyone else saw it, but Leonard looked at both of his cards one at a time, and then like kind of went back to him like, "Is this real? Like, is this?" There's a raise, a jam, a call, and I just find the birds in the big blind. What is happening?
This reminds me of him finding the birds at the PGT last month.
Yeah.
At that final table against Chino Reem, there was a raise and a jam, I think, and he just wakes up with aces.
And
Goodness
Leonard
gracious.
does jam here. Schutten is out of the way.
Does he have more than that? Yeah, right?
Now action is back over to Becker, and he's got to
I
feel
didn't see
sick.
this happen in here.
You feel sick.
No,
There's a
but
player
me
all
folding.
in. This range of
gonna hold
pads is
Brek.
basically
You gotta have
queens,
something.
kings, aces, potentially
You can't
ace
work with me,
king.
right? I got a good one.
So, look,
9.
this sucks. You just put in 830K, but you got a
250,
million
5.
back. I think you get away from this one.
Yeah, and listen, thankfully
has
Becker
one.
didn't jam himself, right? You know, because this is exactly why you make a play like he did. He comes with the call, probably deemed it enough to be able to shut out action behind him, unless someone picks up a absolute premium like Leonard did. So can Becker find the fold here and get away from this one?
Now, anyone in the chat or who's watching who might be screaming, pot odds, pot odds. That is absolutely correct. There are pot odds, but your pot odds don't matter as much when there's real money on the line.
If I got the best.
If Jeremy just folds and Gafford gets eliminated, that's money in the pocket, which pot odds can't calculate.
Becker still in the tank here. If he folds, he's left with 955K, which, you know, isn't the biggest stack, yes, but it's manageable. It's 9.5 bigs at this juncture.
And shoot, if I'm Bradley Gafford here, I'm thinking I got ace-king suited. I'm about to triple up plus. Like, how is all this happening?
Yeah, the
Hopefully they both have queens.
and there
Oh
is the
my.
fold from
Oh
Becker.
my goodness.
I have aces.
I thought there was like a 30% chance he had aces there.
Don't put it out there.
Queens? Or jacks?
Don't put it out there.
Becker does not want to see a jack.
You want me to play
Schutten did
7?
fold a jack, so there's only one left.
I was 4 hunting.
I didn't see many diamonds get folded, but who knows?
4.
Oh,
I needed a 4 for the straight.
they said something wrong.
Gafford is all in and at risk
I
here.
feel like it's coming. No 7.
5-3 deuce with 1 diamond. Some chop opportunities here now.
You'd falls, Jeremy? Tell me you
I did not see myself folding this hand. I thought if he goes all in, there's going to be the second fastest call in my life.
9 of diamonds
No
here
7.
on the turn.
Oh, shit, you got
Some additional outs for Gafford.
turn card right there.
that.
It's
Yeah,
never easy.
my God.
It's never
But I
easy.
end up in
Even
land.
with
It's
aces.
always a sweat.
Pad's looking to prepay to get the jinx reversed,
It's like a
potentially.
quadruple up too.
8 of diamonds on the river.
I knew they would be celebrating out here.
I would've
Wow.
came in last.
Diamond for Gafford. Patrick Leonard, listen, if you want to throw up on the table, we'll forgive you. We won't even charge you for it because that is an absolute sick one.
And the dealer's pushing the chips the wrong way. They're going to the guy who had ace-king suited for more of a needle. Jeez. That's tough. You have aces. You're all in against
Other
ace
than the,
king. It's like one of the best propositions you can get into pre-flop and no limit hold'em.
I caught on stream again.
You got a guy drawing 4 outs for a
were
chop.
really
No one,
bad
no one
And goes
pointed it
runner,
out
runner
again.
to
We were
beat
happy
you.
to let him live.
So Bradley
I had
Gafford
ace
goes
king
from
also, so
830,000 or so up to more than 2.8 million there.
Sevens. bro.
Becker lost just about half his
I believe
stack,
you, but-
calling the original shove and then folding with
I'll say
jacks.
you hit my
And
hand.
Pads, Patrick Leonard,
You hit it.
took
You
a
know
tumble,
what I had.
and he's now down to 1.2 million.
You guessed 2 hands, and one of them was
I mean,
my hand.
what a hand. what a
Always keep
hand.
A little mystery.
If that hand doesn't entice you out there, the
How much did
viewer,
you come in with?
to hit the thumbs up on the YouTube
two?
channel,
You wanna have
I don't know what to
no,
tell you.
today?
Okay, I don't know what to tell you.
680.
And while you're at it, please do subscribe to the Venetian Poker Live YouTube channel.
I came
It's
in day
new,
two at
but it's
29K.
growing and it's growing fast.
I'm
The
not
the
lying.
target is to hit
Not mine.
Brek
Two-
was on my table, yeah.
2,500 subscribers as soon as possible. Hopefully by the end of the stream, that would be great. So throw us a subscribe on the Venetian Poker Live YouTube channel. Of course, for everyone that's watching
It was really
on the
nice to
PokerGo
go
channels as
from-
well. Hello,
it was really
hello.
nice to go
Shout out.
from 10K back
Love you
to,
guys.
4K.
So Pad's just getting situated after taking a big hit and losing a big hand. He's recalibrating, and he has a spot where he's
How much
basically
down
going to
to
be
the
all in here.
I mean, I don't think it could be stacked
We both lost the
any.
s- we
it
both
couldn't-
lost the same
We
amount
did.
of hands, so
It
it's
can't be
okay.
stacked any clearer.
So yeah,
5, 6,
There's
7,
3
9,
short
55,
stacks, but
think.
I don't see
Right?
any other route for Patrick here other than an all-in, unless you somehow wanted to slow play and limp
All in.
to call a jam, which with king queen off would be a little unorthodox.
And Schutten quickly calls with ace-jack off, and just like that, Patrick Leonard was in a great spot one hand ago to win a massive pot with aces, bust a player, move way up in the counts, and now he's all in and at risk, and he has the second best hand. The game is crazy.
Poker
Okay, the game is crazy.
Defined, Donnie. You just defined the variance in poker
Listen,
tournaments.
Never quit. Someone's gonna be complaining about
Yeah.
being short in a couple days, and I'm gonna say, bro, the guy that just won the Venetian in short stack every day coming in.
Yeah.
Poker players don't
10,
complain.
7, 7 with a couple of spades here. Backdoor spades are working for
We're
Leonard.
never dead on the turn. It's good. Good news.
10 of diamonds on the turn. Leonard down to the river, and he
I'll do
needs
it.
to find
7
a
of hearts.
king or a queen.
7 of hearts.
7 of hearts.
Couple
I'm guessing Jeremy had the
chops,
7 of hearts in his
a 10 or
No.
a 7, chop
I
it up.
had pocket threes. I would have lost another flip. Shocker.
The 8 of spades is on the river, and we are going to lose Patrick Leonard in 7th place. He's going to take home $21,890. A great run here by Pads, and really just an unfortunate situation that ultimately led to his demise there on that hand. It was the hand before his elimination hand that was really the blow that caused Patrick Leonard's tournament to
Fucking triple my chip.
go off the rails. Aces going down to ace-king suited of the man in the white and blue hat, Bradley Gafford, which leads to Leonard being short, jamming 12 big blinds from the small blind.
Never a
He runs
straight
into a
line,
better hand
friend.
in the big blind, and he's
Speak for
out the door.
yourself.
Yeah, sad to see him go. I would have really liked to see him play more short-handed, final table ICM poker, and maybe see a clinic or something. But
Here's the thing is we started
the deck
super
had other
yesterday,
plans.
and
The
then you
poker
spun it
god
up to,
said
like, chip
no,
lead,
Yeah.
and
and then you
these are our
I'm all
remaining
in there.
competitors.
Oh, you had heaps yesterday?
Cunniff
I
here
did, yeah.
How much?
wastes no
27
time
off
in
that,
putting
like,
his
2
money in.
Ooh. My goodness.
Not going to get any action here. Yeah, Patrick Leonard is extremely active on social media, mostly on Instagram. He also has a special Telegram group with, I think, around 4,000 subscribers or so. He's always sharing his thoughts, his insights, good and bad. He really does go deep into it all. So, you know, give him a follow if you're interested in that sort of thing. I'm definitely
I have
interested in
855,
later on after we're off
just so you
commentary to
guys
check
know,
that out
with
and
the
see what his
line.
thoughts are there. He's generally
So you don't
always
have to say how
upbeat,
much?
even if stuff doesn't go his way.
855.
As I mentioned earlier to kick off the stream, with Leonard, it really is like if he plays his best, he'll feel good. If he feels like he made a mistake, that's when he feels bad. I can't imagine he made any mistakes today. He
790.
played extremely well, of course, in the limited action. Got his money in as best as possible. And what are you going to do? I mean, the game's the game.
So we see the chip leader open with the ace-7 off, early position, and Becker with the ace-jack off in the big. This is a qualifying all-in hand
You need
here.
it 2 even, huh?
Chip leader will be raising offsuit broadways, offsuit aces, as we see suited aces, all that will be dominated by ace-jack. So you're pretty happy to look down at the ace-jack here.
Becker, also the shortest stack here, has received
Whatever,
a pay
man.
jump. Says, whatever, man, and
I
puts
think
the
it's
money in.
855.
This is a crappy spot with ace-7 offsuit, I'm not going to lie.
Oh.
Yep. One of the worst aces you want to run it with, especially when
also.
your opponent probably isn't bluffing.
Floor.
So we see the fold
Table.
and some jokes hit the rails.
Becker takes that pot and moves up over 1.2 million. The final 6 players now are guaranteed $28,486.
It's
So
funny because typically
pay
very
jump of
truthful about the hands.
about
and
7K
I haven't
or so
pulled the fucking
was
truth on
receipts.
this today. But typically, I really am honest.
Just have to get that out there in case
Yeah.
any of us watch it
Well,
later.
no, I guess
Play with
since
you.
I know like it's gonna be watched, like I'm just
Yeah.
messing around because you're gonna find out the truth.
I always say like halfway truth, like, but is a halfway
King
truth
8 suited,
a lie?
small
or
blind.
halfway
All your
truth?
options are available here to put in chips. Really not folding is out of the question here, blind to blind. Typically, you're still shortest. You probably just pile this.
And there it is. All of it into the middle. Queen deuce off is
Alright.
not going to be good enough for Martin.
Eating up.
Oh,
2 in a row.
kill pot.
For
Honestly,
Becker.
I should have limped. It was that strong. There I go again.
I knew that was not.
You know, he says that, and he's almost right there, Donnie. It needs to actually be a bit stronger. Like if that was a King 9 suited, King 10 suited,
Yeah,
those have the
1.5.
properties to limp and then call a jam, because you'll dominate some of the jams, and there's more playability to them.
Over 1-4.
You don't want to limp with like King 5 suited, King
After
6
this
suited,
one,
King 7
I'll
suited
have-
to get jammed on.
1-6-55, I think. Or maybe full
It's
double.
not even. It's
maybe
not even
full
that
double.
greedy. Yeah.
Who knows?
Becker now out of the short stack zone, at least as it pertains to the leaderboard, does move ahead of Jerry Cunniff. Slightly, but enough.
I'll do 2. Maybe we'll see a flop finally. It's been a little bit.
And this seems a little loose.
This could be your one. I
I
owe
mean,
you a
I know
shot.
he's on the button, yes, but
If you want.
you only got
I
14
wouldn't waste it
bigs.
on a hand like this, but
Yeah, definitely
You wanna use it or no?
borderline-ish, but
No, I was
I
just
think
thinking about our
fine
record.
given who you're playing against and the blinds and
record?
how likely they
Like
are to
lifetime
defend
record?
and play back post
what do you
flop.
mean?
And we've
It
only
definitely
played in
does
2
help
tournaments.
Becker's
And I
cause
remember
there that
who
Martin
got the
hasn't
best of
been
who in
too
the
active
first
as the
one.
chip leader, so he's
Yeah, I'm looking to settle the score today.
Oh, I didn't think you knew that.
Of course I remember, man.
Jeremy Becker always chirping. That's for sure.
This guy was born in '96.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
sharp.
I could tell you a hand. I could tell you a $30 pot I played. Fucking, how old am I? 10 years ago.
I don't have
When I
that
started
skill,
playing.
honestly. I don't have that skill.
What happened? They couldn't believe I raised with that last hand. They said the. Oh. Oh my God.
Why stop now, Jeremy? Keep raising.
I swear we're not related.
He's gotten good hands.
Very,
200.
very good hands. And a small sample, too. What have we
My
seen?
goodness.
20
I mean,
hands?
yeah.
Actually, yeah, there's proof.
Speaking of good
I'm trying
hands,
to cool
Martin
me
here
off with
finds a couple of queens in position against
How much
Becker.
brown you play?
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco,
Okay,
siete total.
thank you.
Martin is out of Spain, but I want to say resides here. I know I see him around town playing quite a bit, so I think he made the jump over.
And Martin in a really good spot here just for a small 3-bet. Can apply a lot of pressure to all these stacks remaining.
Are you doing your favorite move?
Becker made it 200, a min raise. That 3-bet does come from Martin. Small sizing too, 450. Becker taking a look around the table here.
Tough spot for Jeremy here. Chip leader could obviously be raising as a bluff with some folds. But yeah, maybe he finds a way to just exit. Wouldn't be surprised if the money gets in.
Yeah, this is cutoff versus button, so later positions, ranges can open up a little more.
I'll do this much.
Becker's going to come with the non-all-in 3-bet here, or sorry, 4-bet.
All in?
Fuck!
I mean, I didn't need to say it. He said it. Becker does call it off. He's not going to like it.
Suerte.
5?
King.
Oh,
And we did see the
Thank you.
small blind fold an ace-4 suited of clubs. So 2 outs for Jeremy
Anyone have an ace?
immediately.
Be honest. No?
No.
You want to know?
5, 7. Yeah. Did you?
I fold 1.
Really?
Ace 4 clubs.
Then it's
Oh.
more likely to come then, right?
All right.
Becker all in here.
Oh,
Ace,
check.
jack up,
Yeah.
up against the
Hold on. 5,
pocket queens for
11,
Paul
13, 15,
Lozano Martin.
1755.
King 6-3 with a couple of clubs.
What's the best card? 10 of club? No. A low club, right?
Uh,
Well, ace.
yeah.
Yes, ace would be the best
Yes,
card for you, Jeremy.
You want an ace.
6 of diamonds
not-
here on the turn. Becker's down to an
Then you
ace
got
and
an
an
ace
ace only,
going
and
on.
one of those aces has been folded. One
Nice.
card to come here.
All right, let me try this. Good luck, guys. It's been a pleasure. Ace.
10 of hearts on the river.
Good game.
Jeremy Becker does not find the ace he needs, and he's out the door in 6th place. $28,486 for Jeremy Becker. And all those chips heading over to Paul Lozano Martin, the chip leader, gets even stronger here, now up over 8.6 million.
Here, you're the button.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good game, Jeremy. Very tough spot there with ace jack off. And presumably a spot where the chip leader should be aggressive. And
I was
you have
thinking
full
your
equity.
chip's about to
And
drop,
you have a
so we
pretty
gotta do
damn good
something.
hand in
Yep.
ace jack. But yeah, good game. That's a tough one there.
5 players left. $37,600 is what they are guaranteed. This is the final table of the $1,600 buy-in Ultimate Stack
I don't know how
tournament
that much energy at a poker.
That's we were talking about that last
here at the
night, yeah.
Venetian Resort, Las Vegas.
I admire it.
Yeah, I do too.
I believe Venetian has, as we see Cunniff here, goes all in from the button. We're going to pause here for a second. I'll get back to that because Adler has a couple of jacks in the small blind. Cunniff is all in for almost 1.1 million here on the button.
You have 5, right?
Yeah,
The big
Jerry
ones,
Yeah.
shoving here on the button for like 11 bigs with a king deuce off is a little bit loose. I wouldn't have recommended
On?
this. I would have liked to see at least like a king 9 off or a king 10 off. I think when you get this down in the rung,
Falling anywhere.
when you get called, it's kind of disastrous.
Well,
And
he
we
does
do
get
see
called
that.
by Adler. A couple of jacks here. Schutten looked at his hand, a7 suited, wanted to play it, said it was very pretty. It is, but not pretty enough to play for this many chips. So another all-in here. Jerry Cunniff is all in with king deuce off against Adam Adler. There's a couple of jacks and a king on the flop, but it's also
Not the flop I wanted.
a jack. That is not the flop you wanted. It looked good at first, but then as the dealer fanned the more cards, got another jack. 10 on the turn, so okay.
The best turn card you could
Yeah,
ask for, because
yeah.
now you have 8 outs to chop. Any other card, you're almost dead.
3 of diamonds is not going to do it on the river. Another elimination here from the final table. Jerry Cunniff, 5th place, $37,600. A very good showing from him. Adam Adler takes that pot and is up over 4 million in chips. Here we can see the updated leaderboard. Paul Lozano Martin up on top, very healthy, 8.6 million, 86 big blinds. We lost Patrick Leonard, we lost Jeremy Becker, and just there, we lost Jerry Cunniff.
Yeah, great run by Jerry. He's almost at 400 or 800,000 in tournament winnings now. After that, cash. You know, I think that hand and what we've seen in the last 5 minutes on stream is kind of a learning lesson as how fast things can go in a tournament.
Oh,
and
yes.
even when you're a short stack, you got to kind of keep it even keel and always think about the risk reward. Because I feel like chips start flying when you get down to 5-handed, 6-handed, and people start busting. And you know, I think you just got to remember sometimes it
Like 2.5,
it-
2.6.
it's better to just avoid playing hands than trying to win hands, especially at this point. All right, that's enough of my spiel.
4 players remaining. $50,300 is locked up. And And we see Schutten here. We talked about the possibility of a lot of aggression from Schutten, and here he is 3-betting 5-4 suited from the small blind.
Sick. Just sick. I mean, you're using your chip advantage. You're going against a wide button range, so you can extend out a little bit. 4-5 suited is aggressive, but your suited connectors want to do this at some clip with having board coverage. Typically in these spots, you'd rather have some blockage, like an ace in your hand or a king in your hand. But yeah, the aggression pays here because Adam just folds a pretty decent hand in position.
Yeah, not much Adler can do there with king 10 off. We can obviously see on the screen he had very much the best of it, but not easy to play that one with the situation that presented itself. And Schutten now up over 5 million, 5.3 million for him. Short stack is Bradley Gafford still, but he's pretty healthy on just under 24 big blinds. So this Ultimate Stack event, as I was saying earlier before we had a flurry of action, is part of the Deep Stack Showdown Poker Series here at the Venetian. Events are running through March 30th, so still plenty of time to get on down to the Venetian on the Las Vegas Strip and get in on the action. Coming up, starting on Friday, we have another Ultimate Stack tournament, $600 buy-in, $150,000 guaranteed. There are 3 starting flights to that one, 1A, 1B, and 1C. And then if you make it to day 2, way to go, and you'll return on Monday, March 17th. So 150K guarantee there. Plenty of big tournaments still to be had. Also plenty of, small tournaments. If you want to dabble with a little bit less of a bankroll, they got, $200 buy-in, stuff like that is on there. Still to come later on. Starting on March 27th is an $800 buy-in, 200K guarantee. So if you're in the area or if you're coming to Vegas in the next couple days, you want to play some poker, highly recommend checking out the Venetian. Definitely give at Venetian Poker a follow on Twitter. They do a lot of posting of the events, the schedule, the structure, all that sort of stuff, and that can keep you up to date. Back to the action here. We have Gafford coming in with a raise to 325. Martin called. Note the sizing. 3 1/4 bigs from Gafford out of the small blind. So trying to lower the likelihood that he would have to play this one out of position. Martin has enough to come along with ace 10 off and does so. King 6-3 with a couple of spades. And Gafford checks.
Love how both players are playing their hand so far. Jack's obviously strong enough to raise the chip leader's big blind out of position, and then ace 10 off. Some people might just try to get a lot of money in pre-flop there with ace 10 off, but for 25 big blinds effective, I think taking that hand to the flop and playing in position with your chip lead is optimal. So I like to see both strategies here develop. And Jack's now kind of playing very passively with the overcard of a king. Okay, I understand checking the flop, and I guess I understand checking the turn since there's so many draws, but you're probably missing out on some value if you're not betting jacks by the turn. But all good.
Martin
Now,
does check back the turn. 4 of diamonds comes in here on the river. Let's see if Gafford decides to go for some value here.
Now, you might look at this board and say, oh, it's crazy to bet jacks, but it's really not, because you could expect our opponent to bluff a 4 or a 5 on the turn and maybe have some showdown value in an ace high or something.
Jacks?
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think jacks could have bet at any point in that hand. I think checking the flop is the most reasonable point in the hand. And, yeah, maybe just a little too passive out of position there, but fine. Whatever.
How about the river from Martin's perspective? I mean, snap check back. Didn't even think about the fact that maybe I'll try and rep a 5 here. I could have a hand like an ace 5, 6-5 suited, stuff like that.
Yeah, I hear that. I do think when you do have an ace high and it's 10, it's likely to be good or somewhat good at some clip on the river. What, that's 20% or so. You're just going to take that. So I think it's more like if you can't tell a complete story by the turn or river, don't just try to tell one on the river.
Gafford here finds Queen Jack off on the button. Gonna come in with the raise.
Raise
210,000. Quick folds from the blinds. And Gafford takes that one. He's up over 3 million. Let's not forget that Bradley Gafford came into this final table as the short stack, had about 8 big blinds, got a couple shoves through, then massive double up. His ace-king suited up against Patrick Leonard's aces. There was other action in which ultimately led to more than a triple up for Gafford because he jammed over a raise. Jeremy Becker, who was still in at the time, made the call. Then Patrick Leonard jammed behind. Runs out running diamonds in favor of Gafford, cracks the aces for Patrick Leonard, and the next thing you know, he's four-handed, playing for $131,000 up top, and he's locked up 50K. I mean, poker tournaments are absolutely wild and absolutely unpredictable. Martin here on the button, king 6 off, comes in with the raise, 200K. Schutten calls from the big, queen 7 off, king 10 4, all hearts, top pair for Martin.
Could play a mixed strategy here with top pair. I know players just tend to bet these monotone flops all the time, but we do see Martin deviate and does come back with a check, excuse me.
Check.
And this is why you check back to let your opponent hit something, hit some kind of equity that they want to call, or you get value from like a 10, a 4, or a 7 here. So now we should see a value bet from Martin.
Bet 325,000.
A little chunky, a little over half pot. I think a pause for concern for Brek here, but we'll see how he decides to navigate with no heart.
Call.
He does make the call. Pot up to 1.2 million now. 5 of hearts comes in on the river. Pair of kings still best for Martin, but there are 4 hearts on board now. Action's on Schutten here.
Check. Check.
Check, check. Martin's going to win this one at Showdown.
Pair of 7s. Pair of kings.
And that check on the flop got him an extra 3 big blinds.
It's 120, right? Not 125.
120.
Yeah.
60 120.
Oh.
10,000.
All right, blinds are going up here. 60,000, 120,000. Paul Martin Lozano, you see him there in the hoodie with the glasses. 8.8 million. He began today's final table as the chip leader. I want to say, if I remember correctly, he began day 2 as the chip leader of the tournament. Then went on to ride that chip lead into this final table and has not gotten out of the top spot yet.
Impressive. Wire to wire. Potentially.
Raise 240,000 now.
Adler here with the min raise on the button, 240. Gafford in the big blind, 9 deuce off. Says no, thank you.
Yeah. Put him in. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Adam Adler, someone I actually know from Florida back in the days.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like over a course of a year.
Grinding
probably
poker
hear,
with
like,
him
3 months.
back in the
out of
day.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, Adler's biggest score
Yeah,
was,
then,
I mean, it was
like,
quite a big one.
I'd say, like, friends
Final
house,
table of
like,
the
it was, like,
WPT
basically- I just,
World
like, pay, like,
Championship.
a little
Took
bit of
4th
the
place in
rent,
that one
but
in 2022 for more than
just, like, so much
1.6
without
million.
Come on, Donnie, that's crazy.
It's absolutely
For
wild.
4th.
Yeah, for 4th place, I know. I mean, that's incredible.
For
Enjoys
4th.
tennis, hanging with his kids and his cat Bosco.
Yeah,
does
I'm pretty
Adam
sure
Adler.
he was a college tennis player or something like that. And yeah, Donnie knows better than me. He's got the stats on everybody.
I don't know what
Big
happened,
one?
but there must have been some
No.
shenanigans when they
Big one?
made, as we see Martin here gets a walk,
Honest
when they
vote.
made the
Yeah,
final
finish
table,
the
because they
board.
fill out
Yeah.
bio sheets, and several of the players put down, there's a question that says,
So
what are your
promote
plans
here,
for the
maybe
prize
here,
money?
here.
Yeah.
Several of the players wrote down Jeremy Becker's makeup.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Jeremy like enticed everyone, persuaded everyone to
You
to
bring
do
cash
that,
on
but
someone, or is just the series?
it seems like everyone is
like-
playing for
I just enjoyed
Jeremy
tournament
Becker's
poker, like,
makeup.
way.
Other than Adam Adler, he said he's going to give the money to his kids.
Rightfully
Yeah.
so, yeah. I mean, that's a very nice group of final table combatants if they're all going to contribute to one person's makeup.
Yeah. Can everyone help me out here? I'm struggling to do it myself. I need assistance.
I need makeup money and I need buy-ins for future
Yeah.
events, please.
So Schutten here with a raise makes it 250. No takers.
I like that fold by Adam in the big king 7 off. I think a lot of people would be defending like kind of liberally in these positions, and you don't want to. Just wait for premiums and play your advantages. AKA play in position, play when you have the betting lead,
It's
play when
definitely
you have the
like
range
dopamine
advantage,
rush,
that
though,
kind
you
of
know what
stuff.
I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like,
But we will see more confrontations now that we're four-handed.
everyone is so controlled by dopamine, they don't even like realize it.
And the only thing that gets you there in cash is if you're playing outside of what you should be
Yeah,
playing.
exactly, yeah. Or new environment or whatever,
Yeah.
yeah.
Martin here. Going to go at it once again. 240 on the button. Ace 6 off. Schutten with 6-4 off in the big blind. We know he loves to stay active and play hands, so getting a good price out of the big blind. He's in there.
Bottom of the barrel hand, but you're up against the button, so that makes it a little more advantageous.
Queen 8-3 here with a couple of spades. Martin is going to continue. Looks like 220. Quick fold.
I got the chip lead. I got the range advantage. I got the
That's
queen
right.
high board. Easy C bet, easy win.
You play online at all too?
Time to time, you know, maybe like a Sunday here and there, but yeah. I just don't like the lifestyle of just like being home all the time, yeah. It's just kind of tough to like have a balanced life doing that, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
Another nice one here, four-handed for Martin. King,
Raise,
queen off.
40,000.
Makes it 240. No action for him. Continues to move on up. Approaching 10 million in chips is Paul Lozano Martin. Martin does have his Hendon Mom hidden,
Do you do much like besides
but I
poker
do know that
nowadays,
he,
or-
believe he final tabled a big event here in Las
My
Vegas
wife and I started a
for
medical weight
around
loss clinic.
200K,
I
250K,
knew you
something
were,
like that.
something like that.
So I was
As I mentioned
nice
earlier in the show, he did take 6th place in the Card Player Poker Tour $1,600 event here at the Venetian back in February. That was streamed on the Venetian Poker Live channels. You guys can find it in the live stream section if you want to go back and watch that event. He took 6th place in that one for $36,500.
So then we started a medical weight loss clinic that does like compounded semaglutide and tirzepatide,
Okay.
like Ozempic and Zolpi. Like,
Oh, okay.
Kind
Yeah.
of like a generic.
Yeah.
levels. So that's going well.
Schutten with the raise here, king, queen suited. Martin defends from the big blind with 10-7 off.
And then
So the two biggest stacks
sports
here
for the
are
kids.
going to go to a flop.
Apparently need coaches all the time.
Oh, it's, yeah.
Ace, 6, deuce with a couple of hearts.
Check.
Probably one that leans to favor Schutten as the pre-flop raiser, and he comes with 200K. Martin's out of there quickly. Might see a bit of this, you know, raise, maybe one call, take it on the flop, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
At least right now, shortest stack is still 20 big, so
I always
decent
say
amount of
I
playability.
stayed an ICU nurse because I felt like a little more fulfillment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see how
As
some
a
of the
poker
ranges
player, you're not-
shape. Even that last call by the
Exactly,
chip
yeah.
leader in the
That's
big
the one thing
blind
you like kind
could
of
be a pip
Yeah,
off.
you have to
Yeah.
do something else. to be able to
Depending.
do that.
But it's definitely like fulfilling in other ways.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's good to have other
Yeah.
aspects of your life.
Raise, 250,000.
Schutten here with another raise. Ace 8 off. Gafford behind him on the button with queen 10 of clubs. Interesting spot for him off 20 bigs.
So what are you thinking here is the best route with the queen 10 suited?
I mean, I might just rip it.
That's definitely an option, yeah.
I mean, I think 3-bet not all in is fine too. Yeah, I mean, I'm more comfortable just
2
jamming
million.
here if
Raise,
because you're
2
now
million.
you're down to 4 people.
So
Like, I don't think I would do it earlier in the tournament, or earlier at the final table, I should say.
So I kind of like what you said first. What we saw here by Gafford, the all-in, is kind of interesting because you can get some ace highs that beat you currently, like we just saw fold. The second favorite option I think I prefer is just flat call,
Okay.
because that way you get to realize some equity in position. And I
Should
would
get a
hate
patch
to
for
3-bet
impact
fold that
medical weight
hand,
loss.
Okay, yeah.
because some of the hands that jam on you, like
Start
we just saw
promoting
fold,
Yeah.
might jam on you. The ace
Yeah,
eight
and
suited
I
or
mean,
something.
now that I think about it, specifically against
Serving Michigan, Nevada,
Brek.
and California.
Yeah.
he's probably likely to find a few more 4-bet jams than most people, right? So, yeah. Now that I think about it more, I don't really like 3-bet not all in.
240,000.
But I'm fine.
But you
Just,
did say jam first.
I'm fine jamming it. You know, like, I mean, even if you get called, you're probably gonna have enough equity anyway. Like, you're just dominated by few hands. I mean, yeah, there are some, obviously, aces, kings, queens, ace, queen, but it's not going to be the worst. Even if your opponent snaps you off with ace, king, you're plenty fine.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, those suited broadways to shove really get value because they don't block the first folds, the offsuit aces, the offsuit kings, the suited aces. And then when they do get called, they have like 40% equity mostly. So another confrontation where it's like big blind defense, fine, 8-6 off, sure. And then a button C bet here on a range kind of betting board.
Yeah, king 8 deuce rainbow. Martin does continue. Schutten, of course, is going to come along here. Flops middle pair, only one overcard to worry about. Jack on the turn, so that puts Martin in the lead here.
Now, when you get called after betting on king 8 deuce, and then you turn second pair, you might feel comfortable enough to keep betting. You have to ask yourself, would an ace high call me twice? Would a pair of twos call me twice? And then obviously an 8 or king is not going to fold as frequently, especially for this size. So I like the size by Martin. If you're going to go small on the flop, you can continue with your value bets as small on the turn to keep a wider, weaker range in, as we see Schutten decide with that type of hand right now.
He's going to get at least one more street here out of Schutten, who does come along to see the river. 7 of diamonds here. So Martin gets the check mark as long as this one goes to showdown. 1.55 out there. Now Martin has to decide if he wants to get another street of value. He does not, but checking back, fine. He's going to table the winner here. And he's just shy of 10 million. Just not there yet. 9.96 million, but almost there. It's really been up only for Martin today at the final table. I think he dipped down maybe to 6.7. Started with over 7 million, but
And look, the rest of the players, I mean, they're all in the same boat, around 30 bigs.
yeah, and if you're Martin, things are just really breaking your way overall in terms of the breakdown of the chips, where you're just kind of extending your lead and everyone else is staying the same. You know, ideally you would push all three of your opponents down at the same exact rate. Now, of course, that can't happen all the time, but he seems to be doing a pretty good job of it, you know, as we see Adler here, who I don't think, by the way, has said a single word at this final table. I'm not sure he said a single thing.
He's very stoic.
Ace King off for him. He played Ace King off earlier, got his money all in very early on against the chip leader Martin. He also had Ace King and they chopped. Here, he could be in a nice spot going to a flop because Gafford has a suited king out of the big blind.
And these are definitely the kind of hands I want to continue. Some of these hands even find their way being a little more aggressive pre-flop.
800.
And there it is.
But I wanted to disclaimer this. Like a king 5 suited, king 6 suited, there are options for playing those as like shoves around 20, 25 bigs in chip EV format where, you know, the button's raising a lot and they're going to fold a lot. In ICM and this typical situation, you don't really want to take your suited hands as bluffs pre-flop because you lose the equity when you get shit jammed on. So here, that's exactly what we're going to see. We're going to see a hand that was 30% to flop a strong hand and a suited king. So we flop a flush draw, great, it's easy to play. Now you're losing all that value because you're about to get jammed on. In a spot where you could have just put in one big blind, but you turned it into a bluff. So I would rather see this be king 5 offsuit as a bluff, because that's harder to play, than king 5 suited, which has a lot more value.
And there's the jam and the quick fold from Gafford. Nice pickup there from Adler. Did it all pre-flop, but is now up over 4.2 million. Back into second place for him. Gafford now down to 2.1. Sub 20 bigs for Bradley Gafford. But he's been there before. He entered this final table as the short stack with 8 big blinds. And I think that Gafford, if I remember correctly, I spoke to Lozano, I thought he entered day 2 of this tournament as the chip leader. I think Gafford entered day 2 with 29K at 4K big blind.
Wow.
So 7 1/4 bigs.
Good for him. I mean,
And has spun it up to now be four-handed.
yeah. Like what patience you must have. Obviously, you had a bit of good luck as we saw Ace King suited beat aces, but kudos to have that kind of patience and discipline and execution to survive being so short. You know, I know people can't handle that.
Yeah, listen, luck's obviously a factor, right? Tristan just mentioned the Ace King beating the aces of Patrick Leonard for Gafford. But you're also not in that position to even get lucky if you don't exhibit the discipline and the patience at other points of the tournament. Now we could see some action here. Adler opened up with Ace King. Martin comes along from the big blind. It comes King, King 9. So trips for Adler. Martin flops a pretty decent hand here with 2 pair. He's also got backdoor diamonds.
Both players like this flop. Obviously, Adam loves this flop. It's also one of those flops where Adam's just going to be c-betting his range most of the time. He's going to have suited aces. He's going to have pairs. He's going to have broadways that connect with this, right? Jack 10, Queen 10, Queen Jack, all have some kind of equity. Now, Martin likes his hand too. 2 pair with the Queen of Diamonds. And this was the one good thing about Adam betting his hand strength on the flop. He doesn't have Ace King with a diamond. He has Ace King no diamond. So some people might say, well, Tristan, why isn't he checking the flop to trap with trip kings and the best kicker? And this is exactly why, because there are turns and rivers that you don't love. So would like to see Adam bet again as we see him grab chips.
Bet 550,000.
550, so slightly over half pot, but effectively half pot here. And Martin did add the flush draw, so he's not folding.
Yeah, no decision here for Martin. He just calls, he sees a river, he realizes all his equity, he beats bluffs. He's not really beating value at this point. Any value bets from Adler are going to be a better 9 or a king or a flush. But with all the equity and the fact that Martin can beat bluffs. He goes nowhere. They see a river. What's going to happen?
And the 8 of diamonds comes home. That favors Martin with that queen of diamonds in his hand. He's first to act here.
Would be kind of unorthodox to see a lead here, but with the second nut flush card, I think it's an option.
And if he does lead, you know, then it's a question of what sort of sizing do you want to come with.
Yeah, think about the full houses Adam has here, right? What are the combos of king nine? They're only going to be suited. Adam's not going to be playing king nine offsuit. So it's king nine of spades, which Martin blocks. So it's only king nine of clubs or king nine of hearts. And then you have pocket threes, potentially, pocket eights, which probably doesn't bet the turn. So we do see Martin come with kind of a block bet. And now this is annoying for Adam, but he has too much hand to fold and too much hand to raise, basically. I mean, maybe Adam could make some masterful fold, getting, 10 to 1 on his money here. Is this ever a bluff? Maybe not. But your opponent probably doesn't have a full house here.
And he does pay it off. He's going to see the bad news. Martin was able to run down that flush, and you see a little bit of a smile there out of Adler as he nods his head somewhat discreetly there to say, oh, yep, you got me.
Well played by both parties there. I mean, kudos to Adam. Good attitude there. Like, what else can you do but smirk? And
maybe smirking because he might be, you could have got me for a little more on the river there. You could have.
True.
You put 500, 600 out there. I'd probably pay that too,
Very true. That block bet, and that might be the point of the block bet too, Donnie, to entice a raise from a bluff. But I don't think Adam's your kind of customer that's going to be doing that. So that second option you said of a bigger value bet in the 25% range, 30% range might have got paid. But, psychologically speaking about Adam there and the smile, psychologically they say, if you smile after something bad happens, it raises your endorphins and it makes you actually be happier. So
there you go.
There's a little tip for anyone who get bad beat at the table. Just force a smile, and physiologically speaking, did I say that right? You'll feel better.
Raise.
I mean, poker is certainly a very, very big mental game, and I would say I have no issue saying like I've struggled with the mental game at times, and I think a lot of players do. It's something that you, just like playing poker and understanding what you want to do with certain hands in certain situations, it's just going to take a lot of reps to be able to deal with stuff. So, good on Adler there for having a good attitude about it, because it sucks to lose. It definitely sucks to lose.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge pot. That's a 20 big blind pot. You can see it. You still see the look on his face in the corner here. It's still eating at him. And that's something you got to be good about if you're going to do this and care and put your best foot forward when you play poker, you have to get out of the past and stay present.
Raise, 200.
So Martin is up over 11.4 million now, and he's right back on the gas here. Queen 8 off, and that gets the job done. So at least as things stand right now on the surface, this looks like it is Paul Lozano Martin's tournament to lose. He has 58% of the chips in play. He's entered the most pots at this final table, a VPIP of almost 40%. He's up around 4.5 million chips on the day alone, which his profit from where he started is more than anyone else has in their stack. You can just further crystallize the idea of how much it has been Paul Lozano Martin's final table. So action here folds to Schutten in the small blind, Queen Jack off.
All in.
He announces all in, and Ace 8 off for Gafford in the big, and he's going to call it off.
We don't have
Snaps
a
it.
queen.
So this is super fascinating of a spot. I know, it just looks like a big coin flip, but when we think of Brek's strategy from the small blind playing against a 18 big blind stack, the hands that typically just want to go all in are going to be the
What's
weaker
the sweatiest
category.
flop?
So that's why you see ace-8 make kind of a quick call here, because you expect to just be good and
Yeah,
never
figure it out.
dominated that much.
8, 9 of clubs.
And I could elaborate on that as my brain continues to think of different strategies here blind on blind, but we have a run out to think about.
Ace, ace, king.
No sweat.
A little.
At least as things stand right now, very much in favor of Gafford, but still some outs here for Schutten.
Clubs working, 10 working immediately.
Seven of diamonds on the turn. So Schutten is going to need a 10 and a 10 only if he wants to take out Bradley Gafford and get this down to three-handed play. River's the 4 of diamonds. And a big double up here for Gafford. Up to just about 4 million now and shoots himself all the way up into second place on the leaderboard. Schutten tumbles down to 1.66 million. He'll be the shortest stack with 4 players remaining. As we take a look at the updated leaderboard here from the Venetian Resort Las Vegas in this $1,600 UltimateStack final table. Paul Lozano Martin still up on top, approaching 100 big blinds for him. It's really been up only for Mr. Martin. And Brek Schutten is currently the short stack. Bradley Gafford and Adam Adler in between. Four-handed play here, guaranteed $50,300. Field size was more than 500 entries.
Yeah, that last hand is just very interesting because Brek could have basically done anything. I mean, I think his play is fine. I'm not criticizing it that harshly. I'm just saying there's a lot of chips still working there, blind on blind. And when you have a hand that strong as a queen-jack suited, sometimes a limp earns you money because your opponent's going to check hand you dominate or raise weak hands and you could call and see a flop. Sometimes your jam is great because you just pick up the money in the middle, and when you do get called, you're 50-50. But I think there's many ways to skin that cat, and I don't know if I particularly love just an all-in jam because it puts you at the mercy of just running it 50-50 instead of using more of your information and chips and strategy there.
Well, Schutten's going to jam again. This time, king, queen off. Gets it done. Everyone folds. As a reminder, if you are tuning in on the Venetian Poker Live YouTube channel, first of all, thank you. Second of all, hit the like button. Third, your third thing on your checklist, subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 2,500 subscribers. Would love to see us get there as soon as possible. This is the final table of a tournament here at the Venetian Resort Las Vegas, but cash games too are regularly aired on this channel. On Saturday, this last Saturday, we did a 100-200 cash game headlined by Jean-Robert Ballond and Brian Oken. Those two will be leading the charge for many of the cash games that you'll see here on the Venetian Poker Live channel. Also have some Pot Limit Omaha coming up as well, so that'll be fun.
And I will be in the booth for some of that.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go, baby.
Good, because I don't know a darn thing about PLO. I mean, I know like the basics, but yeah, it's definitely a very interesting game.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been trying to learn it more recently, playing a little bit more online. But yeah, it's fun. It's very fun.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun and a little tricky to navigate because obviously the nuts changes from every card on the flop to the river, so it's like the equities just run so close in that game, but it's so much fun.
Couple of 10s here for Gafford. I feel like 10s have been going around the table quite a bit. We saw Jeremy Becker with 10s once. We saw Adam Adler with 10s once. Now we got Gafford here with the 10s.
260?
Yeah.
Raise 260.
An ace queen for our chip leader. Here come the fireworks.
You got 1 versus 2, 2 opening four-handed. I mean, this is just typically a hand that's getting all in pre-flop, but the chip leader could have some different ideas here, maybe flat calling and hoping to induce the blinds with a strong hand like ace queen off. It's not atypical, but it could be the best. But no, it looks like we're just going to see a 3-bet. Now, if this money does get all in pre-flop, like tens just jams for 30, which is fine. Oh, we see, hold up. Let me not go to the future.
Adler finds 2 9s here now, and he's taking a look around the table being like, well, what's this action? You got an under-the-gun raise from Gafford. You got the chip leader 3-betting on the button. And now here I am with, you know, a pretty decent-looking pair of 9s, and he is going to go all in.
Don't blame Adam for this. It's a really good hand to be shoving here, typically, especially if the chip leader can have 3-bet folds. But this is the worst hand I probably would consider putting all my chips at risk if I'm Adam.
Is there a world where he just wins this pre-flop? I mean, this has to look super strong, right?
Yeah, no, Donnie, that's a great point. I think tens is kind of puking at this point with all this action. This is literally the one hand he's beating. Gafford's beating from Adler. Adler's typically just going to have like a better hand here.
Or ace king, ace queen suited, and it's 50-50.
Exactly.
So it's like, do you want to risk it?
Exactly. So yeah, there is a world where Gafford just folds, and then Martin cannot love ace queen. And you're right. I think if it's ace queen suited, he doesn't think about 20 bigs. But I think here he has to ponder like, damn, this shove by Adam is very strong, and maybe I don't want to risk my chip lead right now. But I don't know. Ace queen's a pretty strong hand when you're the chip leader, and people could be thinking you're screwing around.
He does make the call. The 10s did get out of the way for Gafford. So at least as things stand right now, best hand went into the muck. And now we're going to have a flip. Adam Adler's tournament life is on the line. Paul Lozano Martin, the big chip leader, makes the call with the overs. Ace, queen off.
I don't know about that.
I mean, these hands are just super sick. I mean, it's just... I love this game.
Then they counted it. And I was like,
Queen, 5-3. Martin vaults into the lead here. 2 spades out there. Adler does have the 9 of spades, so keep an eye on that. Right now, definitely looking for a 9, though. Queen of spades here on the turn. 10 outs now for Adler. He needs to find a spade. He needs to find a 9. Can't be the ace of spades. 4 of spades on the river. Hello.
Boomska.
Runner flushes just all over the place at this final table.
I don't remember.
Did the tens have a spade? I can't remember.
At least that's what I would tell myself.
I don't know. Maybe it was a 10 of clubs, 10 of hearts.
It was the 10 of hearts, 10 of clubs. That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. So no spade there.
That's right.
So it was destined for the 9s to
Listen.
win that one.
Martin flushed Adler earlier. Okay, so this is just a little bit of retribution there. You know, getting his chips back after what happened earlier.
2.5.
So big double
Wow.
up there for Adler. $5.55 million for him. Martin knocked back below $10 million. He's still very healthy, of course. 9.2 and a half.
Think about the butterfly effect there, Donnie. If 9s hit the muck, do 10s just jam
Seems like
and
a
maybe
fair
win the
setup, huh?
hand?
Yeah.
Do 10s call and see a flop and win
And I had
nothing and
You got the
lose,
best hand
you
of
know,
Jack
another
three
8 to
off.
10 big blinds?
I mean, there's definitely a world where Adler
thought
could just
you
fold
had-
with the 9.
When you
Yeah.
asked for the
Like, you know,
counter,
so-
maybe you did have.
Yeah.
And I wonder
You
what would
actually had
10s
less
have
than I
done.
thought you did.
Yeah, I'm guessing the
Like,
10s then.
I was like, oh, maybe.
Could
like
jam.
nines, like,
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Could call. I don't see it folding.
Yeah.
But,
I don't remember if I had the 10 of spades.
and I saw the
I would have folded
spades.
8s too, so it's literally bottom from.
And Adam comments, yeah, the 9s was his worst hand he wants to put it in there with.
Raise.
So Martin right back to it now. 8-5 of clubs. Action folds over to Gafford. Ace-4 off. Dub 5084 in the chat says, wow, we've seen so many sick hands and sick runouts. Yeah, we have. I mean, we've been on watching the stream for 90 minutes, and there's been some crazy, crazy hands.
So the ace-4 off, a hand that can go either way, can call, it can
800.
turn it into a 3-bet bluff. This is the offsuit properties I was talking about, having a blocker previously.
And this time it gets through for Gafford. quick fold out of Martin. So nice
Do you know if
pickup
this is the
there.
break in 5 minutes?
Yeah, I think
No.
so.
I believe one more level, guys.
Another level? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Feels like we've been here all day, but
A little bit, yeah.
but I don't have any. I don't have a phone on me to check the time.
Yeah.
You've only been playing for 90 minutes, so hour and a half. Certainly not all day. But depending on when these guys started, depending on how many bullets they might have put in playing every day, I mean, you might be at the tail end of a 5-day long session, essentially. So it can certainly be draining. Certainly one of the most underrated aspects as it pertains to tournament poker, especially when, at least in my experience, when you're actually trying and you're actually paying attention. Like, you get to the end of the day and you're gassed. You're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what the heck did I just do? I didn't, like, go play basketball for 3 hours. I just played poker. I mean,
But it feels like it. Yeah, exactly.
so Adler here opens. Min raise, ace-10 off. Martin finds ace-king suited in the big blind.
When people think this long, it's like, are you folding or are you 3-betting me? Because probably would have called already by now.
Raise.
And this is pretty uncomfortable for Adam. I mean, he does have a hand that can play in position and see a flop. How likely will he think that he is facing a frequency of bluffs? This is a larger size. It's from the chip leader. We're 1 and 2. We have Schutten here on 14 bigs, 13 bigs, whatever that is. Schutten?
I say Scutten, but
Scutten?
I mean, I butcher names.
We apologize, Brek, if you watch this or any family members are watching
But if you
this.
say Schutten and I say Scutten, one of us probably has to be right, so we can just middle it.
Okay, that's reasonable. Like in true poker fashion, we'll mix frequencies.
That's
and
right.
play a balanced strategy here. As we see, Adam with a great fold. Honestly, that's a hand ace-10 offsuit there against a chip leader's 3-bet. When you're in position, you might want to play back, but I think that's a really savvy fold by Adam. No ego in this game, folks. Ego kills. Although, you know, ask me 15 years ago, one of my favorite strategies was F this guy. I'm all in. But, you know, you got to evolve in life, Donnie.
Of course.
Raise. 420.
Larger sizing here from Martin out of the small blind. Gets a fold.
I mean, very trashy hand, but just playing his
Yeah,
chip
we're supposed to go home
advantage.
today, but I don't
Maybe
think
playing
I'm gonna
the
do
opponent, thinking maybe Mr.
honestly.
Adler will be a
Didn't want to
little
blind out.
tighter.
Could have.
I was gonna say like.
Did you cancel last night?
Rex Mace asking if he can join the
Yeah.
rel if he's in Vegas. Well, these players are in an
like
enclosed
imagine,
room for the
just like a chip
streaming,
leader just, like, doesn't
but there is a
fall.
giant glass window/door,
How crazy would
and
that
you
make
can
that
stand
create?
right outside there. Also, I mean, the Venetian poker room itself is just a great place to come in and hang out, possibly play some poker. I know that they have the stream on a lot of the TVs around the room, so you can watch while you play. There's plenty of cash game action going. There's a tournament happening as we see Adler here. Just jam from the small blind. Nothing there for Brek, so he's out of the way.
That is one of the most comfortable positions to be in. Big stack small blind versus short stack big blind when they have 15 and under. And I say comfortable in the sense of we start to play a lot of all-in hands. As you see the 9-10 offsuit even enter that range. And this is where I think, Donnie, we will see the chip leader step it up,
Raise it.
as we
240.
have been seeing lately.
Yeah, King 5 suited here for Martin.
All
And
in.
yeah, Brek with the decision here with the Queen Jack, and he does put it all in.
Yeah, hey, look. Go for it. Go for it. You're up against a chip leader. You're the shortest stack. You have fold equity still, and you got a playable hand there. It's probably the worst hand we would see Brek want to jam, but
What's up?
good for him to find it.
Yeah, right now.
Those are crucial pickups at this point of the tournament. That's, you know, a 400,000 chip swing, potentially even more.
I do often feel like that situation, or situations at least very close to it, are mistakes that we see from a lot of players that are, you know, maybe not as experienced in poker, where they'll see a hand like that and they'll just call, right? And it might just come from the fact that, yeah, but when I jam, I always get snapped off by better. Well, yeah, that's going to happen. I mean, but the preferred play with a hand like that in that situation is to just 3-bet rip it. The large majority of the time, probably you're going to just pick up the chips. Like you said, Tristan, when you do get called, you might have enough equity anyway. And then, yeah, sometimes you're just going to run into kings, and it's just the end of the day. But that's the game. Ace is here for Schutten, and Gafford, Queen 10 suited.
I mean,
Discipline
what,
fold
what a
there.
great fold
Discipline
there.
fold. I mean,
That's typically a spot you would never see cards hit the muck, but notice the size, 300.
well, it's 150 now,
Oh, is it?
and
Okay.
I only just realized that now.
So
But
forget everything I
I'll
just
say
said
I'll
then.
say notice the size in the fact that he's raising off of 11 bigs. So that alone is like, okay, this is like, is he so premium that he doesn't want to jam, or is it like so trashy that he's just trying to steal it on the button? You probably lean that it's more premium, that it is trash in this spot. So
225.
Gafford, at least I think, you know, sniffing that out and putting the Queen 10 suited in the muck.
Yep, good point. And here we see a lead with a gut shot and 2 overcards. And Schutten here without the ace of diamonds probably just wants to play his hand for more chips on the flop. You're going to be up against some 8x, some 5x, some 7x here as bluffs. But there's a universe where you just call and keep all those trashy hands in, but there's a lot of bad runouts here. So I would just try to get the chips in here now. Would all in be the play? I don't know, but I think it's fine.
All in.
All that.
He does jam. Quick fold out of Martin.
And that's, you know, that's kind of interesting with the 10-9 there, because sure, we see we're up against aces this time, but when you're playing your range there typically, that's a lot of hand to just bet and fold on a flop. So typically a hand like that wants a check and call because I could turn a diamond, I could turn a 9, I could turn a 10, I could turn a 7.
2.6 now, something like that.
So you don't really love betting that and then having to release that, but obviously when Brek goes all in there, he's going to have at least an 8 or better.
Yeah.
Typically, or some good equity with diamond draws and what have you. So yeah, just a little unorthodox there is kind of my point. You'd rather fold like a queen 5 or like a queen 7 or something like trash. When you have the 9-10 there, it's kind of a lot of hand. But I digress. Again, you can tell my overthinking
315.
brain
Raise
loves
to
poker and
350.
tries to come up with every solution in every hand.
What's up?
So a good hand here on the button from Gafford, and a good hand to defend with. Adam can make the nuts a multitude of ways with the Jack-10 offsuit.
Ace King Deuce here, rainbow. Adler can still make the nuts with a queen. Top pair for Gafford.
300.
I mean, this is probably all this hand ends now, but there is a universe where, okay, we see some floats.
Three of diamonds here on the turn. Gafford's equity here up to 91%, so very, very strong.
Yeah, and with this hand in particular, you can essentially go for 3 streets of value. When you're playing a wide range spot, button versus big blind, button's going to be calling the flop with King X and worse. And oh my gosh, I am surprised to see this one get there on the river, 2 by the run out, and Gafford checking the turn is kind of surprising to me.
And Adler comes with a check here on the river, so probably opening up the door. If Gafford felt like that check on the turn was because maybe I can't get 3 streets, so I'm going to try and take whatever path I feel is best to get 2 streets of value, well, that means betting here.
Absolutely, yeah. Under your pretense,
750.
it's like I'm going to check the turn to try to get value from a king on the river.
He comes with half pot here, 750K.
And look at the pit bull stare from Mr.
Yeah, I mean,
Adam Adler.
He sees meat and he's ready to pounce. I mean, this is...
Yeah, you're just praying your opponent had something to bet the river with, and Gafford's going to feel this one momentarily.
Now, something that Adler probably has to think about here, obviously, is sizing, but how good of a hand can your opponent have if he only goes 2 streets? Like, can he really have ace-king, ace-queen, kings-aces? You know, even let's say an ace-2 suited, ace-3 suited, he's probably just going to take those hands 3 streets.
Yep.
So that would at least lean me to maybe go a little bit
1.9.
smaller.
Raise 1.9 million.
Okay, so
Yeah, so this is like in line with what I'm thinking, where he wants to get called by the ace-9, ace-10, ace-8, ace-7, you know, all those hands, right?
yeah, the one pair type hands. And the hand group that could arrive at this river, I think, is specifically like a king-queen.
Yeah.
Or maybe like some queen 3 suited or something. But yeah, that's it. Ace queen should be betting the turn. All those other 2 pair combos should be betting the turn. But interesting point you make about Adam's size, because typically his hand just wants to go all in and play polar. But like you said, if we can remove a lot of value, then we're putting him on a 1 pair type hand here. Then maybe even smaller than 1.9 could have been considered. But either way.
Yeah, I think I would have decided between like almost like a click or all in, and like kind of nothing in that middle area. Like either kind of guaranteeing myself I get called if I just make it like 1.6, or just like you said, going for all of it because I also, you know, I have the nuts. I want to try and get absolute maximum value. So if I
Maybe
think
got
there's a
greedy
fair
on the
chance.
river, I don't know.
And I'm-
Gafford is in the tank here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to let Gafford's thoughts come through here.
I always like when they talk out loud because then it makes our job easier.
If I'm Gafford, I'm asking myself, what bluffs does Adam have here? And if anyone in the chat can name me 3 bluffs right now, I'll Venmo you $50. Because I just don't know if we can really consider, you know, what do we have? Deuce 4 of spades, Deuce 5 of clubs. You know, that's reaching because that's kind of bottom of range stuff to even see a flop with. Is a king turning into a bluff now because we block 2 pairs? Is an ace trying to get a worse ace? You know, like it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to find bluffs here.
I mean, I think you maybe queen jack, but like even that is because then I'm blocking like the king queen. I'm blocking the ace jack, right? I'm also blocking
That's a
jack
good
10
one.
for my
That's a
opponent.
good one, yep.
But then you get into the point where like, okay, should I just like put this into the check call bucket because I feel like I have a decent showdown value? Like if he's in there with like, I don't know, 9-10 suited or something like that. He bets flop, just checks back turn, and then decides to go for it on the river.
Shoot, you name another hand or 2, I might be sending you the 50. That's probably the best one you could come up with there, Donnie. The Queen Jack Queen 10. Although there is some question as to how do those proceed past the flop.
Yeah, no.
Even
course.
Jack 10 here is kind of tough to get to the river, but yeah.
Which I think is in the mind of Gafford right now, thinking what are these hands? Like, what does he have?
We got some of the chat saying King 10, Queen 10. Yeah, good chats. Yeah, King 10 could be a consideration too. King Jack, absolutely.
He does pay it off.
Oh wow!
Look at that. And Adam Adler is going to get paid here with Broadway.
1.9 it was.
1.9.
Comes in with the check raise on the river.
Nice hand.
Yeah, thank you.
And I really think that hand comes down to Gafford not betting his hand strength for 2 streets there. It's one enough to let a Jack 10 proceed past the flop, no big deal. He only has 4
There's a
outs.
little jolt when the river-
But I think on the turn, when you have that high
There's
of a
little
hand
jolt
class,
when the river
a
hits.
good ace, you
You
gotta
told
keep
me.
that
Oh,
in.
yeah.
So with that pot, Adam Adler shoots up to over 7.9 million. And Gafford is left with
Yeah,
right around 1 million in chips. 150K big blind, so very, very short now is Gafford. He's been very short before, though, so not really out of any sort of, comfort zone that he hasn't been in before. He's been here. He's been able to spin it up, so he'll just have to get back to work. And maybe it starts here.
Yeah, this
Jack 10 off,
yeah,
under the gun.
Yeah, I mean, sure you can pass, but there's not a lot of maneuverability once you get hit by the blinds and lose 400,000 in the next 2 hands. But we have a neck and neck race now for first and second,
750.
and these other 2 stacks under 20 bigs. We're going to be off to the races here, Donnie.
Dude, hey, I can count it.
And it seems like Adam just wants to jam this hand, isolate against the
Oh,
short
yeah,
stack,
yeah,
and get Brek out of here
2
in
million.
the big blind. He's going to need a very
2.8.
strong hand to continue,
Yeah.
since there will be the shortest stack at risk. Pay jumps happening.
All in.
All in.
There's the jam from Adler. And Scutten here, ace 7 of clubs.
So if you don't like money, you would call here. If you really don't like money, you would call here. But look, Adam's just not going to be that loose. And even the under the gun player is not going to be that loose. So that's a painful fold by Brek. But when you make 15, 20,000 in a pay jump here, it's an easy fold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're happy.
So Gafford does call it off, and he is all in and at risk once again in this tournament and at this final table. 2 overs, though, so 50-50 we go. 6s for Adler. King, Jack, Deuce. Gafford shoots into the lead here. Pair of jacks. He's going to need to fade a 6. 5 of clubs. Close but
one.
not close enough. 1 card to come. 2 outs for Adam Adler. 10 of spades on the river. It's ultimately 2 pair for Bradley Gafford, and no one can kill this guy. He, it doesn't matter what happens. He gets his money in.
1
He
million.
finds the double up.
1 million.
And just like that, Bradley Gafford is back up over 2.3 million.
5,000.
Right there with Brek Schutten.
Just like that. Just like that. How quickly things turn in this game.
Undefeated Jack 10. Undefeated Jack 10.
Yeah, that's why it's the best all in hand in the game.
And Adam, who just nearly eliminated Gafford with Jack 10 and rivering the nuts, now
Thank you.
gives some back against Jack 10.
Updated leaderboard here. Paul Lozano Martin maintaining his chip lead, 8.555 million. Bradley Gafford is still a short stack, but he's right there with Brek Schutten. And then Adam Adler firmly in second place after that hit, doubling up Bradley Gafford. Adam Adler is on 6.93 million. Final 4 players here, guaranteed $50,300, playing for just over $131,000 up top. My name is Donnie Peters. I have Tristan Wade alongside of me. Thank you, everyone who is tuning in to watch this final table coverage from the Venetian Resort Las Vegas. Please do subscribe to the Venetian Poker Live YouTube channel. Throw us a like while you're at it.
So this is a similar spot we saw with the Queen Jack suited. It's a lot of hand to be jamming for a lot of chips, 20 bigs. I much prefer a raise or a trap with this ace-8 suited.
Okay. Oh.
If this was an ace-8 offsuit, I think the idea is a lot better because it's harder to play the offsuit hand. You're out of position. You don't want to play that to a raise and a call. But yeah, definitely a decision for Queen 10 off here because you know you're up against like a weaker hand class of shoving. But I think this is ultimately going to hit the muck with these stacks. It's just a little risky with the Queen 10 off.
Wow, Gafford does call it off here.
All in the call.
Wow, I am surprised.
Yeah, we
Like,
covered.
It's like super
yeah,
close.
I'm just really surprised here by Queen 10 off, Donnie. This is like,
You have 2.3?
you just doubled up. You got 20 bigs.
Yeah, you
Schutten
have
isn't like
2.3,
just
I think.
jamming any two.
Because he was in. Oh no, he shoved under the gun actually.
Yeah, and he,
So,
he's-
yeah,
I mean,
I
he
don't
saw
love it.
earlier
It's
that
very close then. Yeah, no, because
he
shoved
jammed
under
in a
the gun,
similar
it wasn't
spot
big
with
blind,
Queen
so
Jack
the
suited,
last hand
right?
they
So
doubled.
if he's jamming those types of hands, you're probably less likely to want to call with the
Yes.
Queen 10 off. Now, if
Maybe
Scutton's
because
just
of
getting
the-
in there
Yeah.
with anything,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
maybe he's seen something over the days where
yeah.
Schutten will just
Luck.
jam any two, and
This
he's
hand's
like, look,
not
I'm going to take my chances
No,
here. But
this one.
this is risky. Risky, risky,
This is
risky.
very similar to my
Yes.
hand.
Well, here we go. Very similar stacks here. 8, 7, deuce, all hearts. 10 of hearts for Gafford here. So 2 overs
Cards are down
and a
there.
flush draw. You see the outs on the top of your screen. 14 of them for Gafford. King of spades here on the turn.
And this is effectively for fourth place. Whoever loses this hand is going to be fourth place, right? Obviously, Gafford's all in, but this is a crucial pot.
6 of hearts comes home. And you see the look of pain on Brek Schutten's face there as Bradley Gafford spikes the river, makes a heart flush,
1.3, 1.8.
and he's going to
It's
double up.
just painful.
I mean, that's just a brutal way to go.
That's painful.
He's not out yet, but that's a brutal way to lose, of course.
Yeah, I mean, those are the spots that aggravate me the most, just because someone makes
160.
maybe a call with a hand that shouldn't even be in there for their tournament life, and they get rewarded.
That's
100.
1, 2, 160.
60.
Okay.
But that's the way the cookie crumbles. And from outhouse to penthouse.
Yeah, Gafford climbs up to 4.47 million. Brek Schutten here left with 190,000, so about 1 1/3, 1 1/4 big blinds for him.
Yep, and my bad, Jeffrey Chen. Thanks for your comment. It wasn't 20 bigs. My bad, Donnie. I keep forgetting the blinds are up. But what was that for? Effectively
said I was shoving with
15
Jack
bigs or so,
Yeah,
maybe.
15 or 16. I mean, listen, it's still a lot.
It's more reasonable at that stage. So I excuse my poor commentary there, folks. But yeah, that definitely makes a lot more sense to call with Queen 10
Look,
off there
thank
with a smaller stack. And Brek will be shoving a lot more hands there, but that is a borderline either way. But yeah, my apologies, everybody.
So Schutten is all in here. Ace 5 off. Bradley Gafford is deciding with Jack 7 of clubs from the small blind. He announces a call. Action now on Martin in the big blind, the chip leader, who hasn't been
195,
active
right?
these recent couple of hands.
Spin.
Well,
But he's in there here. So a chance for Schutten to triple up and then some when you include the big blind ante.
Play all in and stuff on this
720 out there. Smile on Brek's face. He could get right back into it here. I mean, he'll still be short, but certainly a much more manageable stack.
Yeah, you win this, you got hope.
King 8-3. Gafford flops the flush draw. He checks. Martin also checks. Deuce on the turn.
And neither of these players are incentivized to put money in with someone at risk. And
Check,
as we
check,
see
and
why.
6 on the river. And Schutten's going to win this one. Ace high holds.
Jack high.
The jack high flush draw missed for Gafford. Also didn't hit a pair.
Let's go.
Martin didn't connect.
No.
Double fade.
Fade a lot, yeah.
Brek fades it all, and he's back up over 700,000.
Jack 7 of clubs.
Jack 7 of clubs.
And look,
flop the
awesome.
flush draws.
Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go. We got 6 big blinds. We got life.
I don't know if I should even look at my cards this time. I'll just
5
put it
big
in
blinds, I should say.
and Go for the back triples.
But yeah. There is some strategy here for Brek being under the gun and having to put in 300K the next hand. But you don't really want to just jam here any 2. But I don't know if this is going to qualify. Seems a little ugly, but I don't
All
know.
in.
All in.
Well, it qualifies for Schutten, who's all in here. Jack 3 suited and Jack 9 suited for Gafford.
735.
Now, Gafford does have to consider the fact that he still has 2 players behind him, and because
Yeah.
of that, he's out of the way. Martin finds a couple of 5s.
I'm not sure if Martin really wants to put in more than the minimum here, which would be to call the all-in. But maybe he has some other ideas. Protect his 5s, deny equity.
Min raise. Min raise.
And he says min raise, which I don't think is a valid bet, but
It's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Fold,
Adam
fold.
says he
fine.
folds.
I haven't seen this hand lose today yet either. I haven't seen it win yet.
I was going to
but-
say, yeah. That's what I thought you bet.
But I haven't seen it lose yet either.
Yeah.
Threes are hot.
Yeah.
That's the way this is coming. No jack, no clubs.
On the river
Just
or
the three.
flop?
Just one on the flop.
Okay.
King, Queen, Deuce.
Long threes.
Yeah.
5s are still out in front for
That's what you
Martin.
thought was coming, maybe.
6 of clubs on the turn.
Clubs are too late.
Schutten needs a
Yeah.
jack and
Need
only a
ocean.
jack on the river if he wants to survive. Queen of spades is not going to do it. We are going to lose Brek Schutten in 4th place, $50,327 for him. And those chips are headed the way of chip leader Paul Lozano Martin out of Spain. He's back up over 9 million, 9.235 million for him. And then there were 3. Guaranteed $68,300. We have Paul Lozano Martin right there. We got Adam Adler, and we have Bradley Gafford.
70K locked up. It's got to feel good.
You had like 6.7.
Exactly.
Got it.
On the dot. Yeah.
On the dot?
Like maybe with
Plus
like, with
5K,
this
yeah,
or whatever. I mean,
yeah.
yeah. But yes. Yeah. He must have the balance of. And you have 4 probably, right?
4.2, something like that.
So he has 10 then. Yeah.
Raise, make it 300,000.
Earl Solling in the chat said, not bad for a $1,600 bind. Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all. And it could be you. Just come on down to Venetian. Hop on into one of their events. This series is running until the end of March, so plenty of opportunities to get in there for some pretty accessible price points.
Oh,
and
yeah.
big paydays up top.
Oh, yeah. Lots of
Me and you
tournaments,
both have had
lots of mid-stakes
huge spins
buy-ins.
this tournament.
Yeah.
That's what it takes to get here, you
Multi-flights.
know?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
come play.
I
They got
almost busted
coffee
on that hand to
machines,
you. I'm
soda
like-
machines.
I mean, the
Like
coffee
100K
machine
left or
is
After the A7 and the
the
king
self-service
jack,
beverage
On that flop, I would have bet
machine
anything. I was like,
Yeah.
is
fuck.
one of the best things ever.
Yeah, that puts your poker room
That's been
like
the
towards the
torture for me.
top
I'm
of
just
the
getting
list
all
if
in
you have
against the
something
best
like that.
hand to see every time.
Yeah, here at the Venetian Poker Room, they have 2 self-serve. It's like a whole beverage station. It's probably 8 feet wide. It has 2 robust self-serve coffee machines where you can get cappuccinos, cafe americanos, mochas, chai teas, all this different stuff. There might be 50 different drinks in that thing. Then they have a self-serve soda machine with, I think, juices as well and water in there as well. So lots of options. And the food that you can order to the room is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And one of the best things about this room, which is their new room because they just recently, built it. It used to be downstairs, right in the casino. This is up in the shops area, the mall area. I mean, it's away from everything. There's no smoke. There's no slot machines. Like it's really a poker player's heaven in a lot of ways. So if you are coming to a casino, if you're coming to the Venetian, coming to Vegas just for poker, this is like there's few, if any, spots that beat this place. So highly recommend.
All in.
All in.
Gafford here jamming over the raise.
Love that play.
Yeah, it comes with the limp jam here.
When you limp on 25 bigs there and you get ISO'd by the chip leader. We talked about that earlier in the stream. Deuce 4, we saw check earlier in the stream against Becker's limp. Here we see it ISO. And a great shove by Gafford. That's just one of those hand classes. An ace offsuit, especially ace 9 offsuit. It's pretty, I don't want to say powerhouse. That might be too strong of a word, but it's a pretty strong hand.
I don't know. 3-handed, it could be a powerhouse.
It could be, definitely. I mean, you just want to take that pot, and if you get called, your equity's pretty good. You might get called by some worse hands too, like King Queen, King Jack, maybe some suited ace-X. That's a little pipped.
Raise 325,000.
So 10-9 off here on the button for Gafford. 5s again for Martin, facing a raise. 325 is what Gafford made it.
I mean, with these stacks, sometimes you just see 5s ship it for 40 effective. I know it
See a
seems
stack, please?
crazy, but that's what Martin's going to do here, looking at the stacks, seeing how he wants to proceed. You don't really love 3-betting this non-all-in because when you get jammed on, you can't call, and when someone calls you, you don't flop well. So these hands like to be aggressive for all of it against a button.
And then just adding to that point, I mean, it's also too good to fold,
All in.
right?
Yeah.
Like you want if you're folding 5s here to a single raise, it's just long term, it's just not going to be profitable. So as you mentioned, all those sort of things lining up to the fact that best play, just stick it in, even though it is 40 big blinds effective.
Yeah, it's gross. Like, if Adam calls you there, it's gross, but you're going to get called enough by the ace-queens, ace-kings, more so than you're going to get called by overpairs. But, yeah, you can't fold 5s. If anything, you could call with 5s. But, again, having to play 2 5s out of position when you're only going to flop a set 1 out of 8.5 times, just not an easy spot to take. So, makes sense to be aggressive there. And the wider this distribution gets, the more we can see from Martin. But there's also incentive for him to just fold and let these 2s duke it out.
Adler first to act here. Looks like he could have a playable one.
Raise 300,000.
He does, makes it 300K. Don't know his hand just yet.
The ICM pressure won't be as robust as it was earlier. I was pondering if this queen 4 would see a flop, but to use a high card blocker, high card, low card blocker-esque type hand here as a 3-bet is pretty on par with some strategy. Now, I don't know if you're always going to extend this far down in range, queen deuce, queen 3, queen 4. The 5, 6, 7 make it, and sometimes these lower ones do too.
Oh,
So we do see now that Adler has ace-8 off. And action is on him. Martin made it 1.1 million.
So
And
that-
Adler gives it up.
Yeah, sorry, Donnie.
No,
Stepping
no,
on
you're
your
fine.
toes there.
I put it on there twice. I don't know.
So when you start playing more pre-flop strategies, like we are seeing here with queen 4s and 3-betting and stuff, a hand like
Aces.
ace-8 offsuit
Just didn't want to bust.
can turn into a good 4-betting hand, and you only need to go with a small size because now you're polarizing yourself to be very strong, as in like I got jacks plus, or kind of weak with one of my blocker-esque type hands. And that's a very great strategy to combat someone who's going to be 3-betting you kind of wide. They make it 1.1. Okay, I make it 2.1. And I still have 4 million left if I'm Adam Adler there. And you really test your opponent back with a small 4-bet.
raise.
I mean, we're getting after it. This is one of the worst hands in the deck here.
So Adler does find queen jack off in the big, which is probably playable enough, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. We're happy to see a flop in position here, especially when we're up against this kind of trash in the 8-3 offsuit.
Yeah, and Martin here is just, I mean, he's using his chip leverage. He doesn't just want to give his opponent a walk, so, you know, if he rules out fold because he doesn't want to give his opponent walks, I mean, you can't really just call with 8-3 off because what are you going to do out of position? So just raise it. In a lot of ways, you're really just turning your hand into a bluff and just, you're fine winning it right there. You're fine betting a flop and just winning it on the flop, all that sort of stuff. He does get a favorable one, at least as we can see, 10-10-3. He flops the best of it here with 2 pair, continues for 225 and gets called. Additional equity here for Adler, who is now open-ended with the king of diamonds on the turn.
Makes sense how both of these players had played their hand post-flop. Martin value betting his 2 pair on the flop. Adler floating the flop with backdoor equity. Now Adler has a decision. Do I want to start turning queen high into a bluff now, potentially to get an ace high to fold? Or do I want to just take my up and down
650.
straight draw equity here?
650,000.
We do see a bet. I do like this. But we're not seeing a pair of 3s, 10s and 3s go anywhere just yet. And for Adam's sake, hopefully he can improve. But if he doesn't, he is telling a believable story that he is a 10, he is a king, and he also has a multitude of bluffs here.
Yeah, 650 into 1.65 million from Adler. Action on Martin.
I mean,
With currently the best hand, but you can see there's
yeah,
still a fair amount of equity for Adler here, almost 40%.
yeah. Theoretically, Martin's just never folding his hand. But
Well,
I mean, for
is
him
he about
grabbing
to do more than
raising
just-
chips is kind of insane.
Raise.
Yeah, this is like an unorthodox hand right at this point.
1.2 million, 50,000.
It looks like more.
1.6.
1.6, yes, 1.6.
So the 650 bet from Adler is now kicked up to 1.65 million from Martin. It is an interesting spot, an interesting line from him.
Yeah, look, and
Essentially taking a hand with a lot of showdown and just turning it into a bluff, I guess. I mean,
yeah, it's that's a fair point.
put a lot of pressure on a king, I guess, if he, if he calls with like the king nines of the world on the flop and decides to bet here.
See, but now when you get called here, you're turning a hand that had showdown value into a quasi bluff. Now, what the F do you do? I want to cuss.
Well, how
What
about
the
this?
F do you do?
9 of clubs here on the river. So Adam Adler makes his king high straight.
So this is my problem with this hand by Martin. You have no clue what universe you're operating in right now. You don't know if Adam has a 10. You don't know if he has a king. You don't know if he has nothing, right? But now what can you do after getting called here? You have to check. You have to check. So I don't like that. I just don't like turning a hand with showdown value into a bluff. Maybe there's some exploits there where you think Adam's going to overfold. Maybe I can get him to fold a weak king or something. I think that's kind of out the window. But alas, we see Adam essentially make the nut straight here and the best hand. And
And he's sized here to just put his chips in. 3.3 million back. There's 4.95 out there. So let's see if Adler does, in fact, ask for it all. He's going to be betting 100%. It's just, does he want to go for all of it? Is he maybe elect a small size? But it's up to him how he wants to proceed now.
And that's an interesting point about how Adam chooses his bet sizings here. He does go all in. Now, he probably thinks he's going to be up against a 10 there sometimes. But if our opponent had a 10 there, the money's probably just getting all in. I don't know. Maybe they jam. Maybe not. But huge pickup for Adam. I'm going to clap it up for that one because I do think the most interesting point of that hand is on the turn. And for Adam to bet his equity and then call a raise, I think that's really the focal point. And that's his understanding that, hey, look, even though I only have queen high here, I'm up and down, and my opponent might be bluffing or raising me with a worse value hand in a 3. And I got to see a river here because I got enough outs. So I think that's really savvy, really good poker sense there. And I think that bluff might have worked to deny other people equity, but Adam was strong enough to pick it up there and see a river. So kudos to him.
And with that pot, take a look at the leaderboard at the top of your screen. Adam Adler is now the chip leader. The first time at this final table that somebody has overtaken Paul Lozano Martin.
Good point. That's a huge swing pot right there.
That is a very, very
with
big
8-3
swing.
off, mind you. I had a problem. I had a problem with that entering the pot. And then I had a problem with it raising the turn. Holy crap. They could have saved 10 bigs and kept the chip lead, but now we see the pendulum swing.
Yeah, it's also one of those spots where you wonder if it's going to affect a player's psyche. You know, like there are certainly times for many of us who have played poker where you realize maybe you misstepped in the moment, and then it turns from, okay, let's not compound any sort of mistakes. Let's just throw it out, forget about it. Yeah, we'll study it and we'll get better later, but now in the moment I got to just refocus because they're going to deal the next hand and I got to focus. Like I got to be back in the battle. So just keep that in mind here as it pertains to Paul Lozano Martin. I think he's someone, just in my experience, having played with him quite a bit, he will refocus. Like he's a tough cookie at the table. So I wouldn't really expect him to just like all of a sudden go on this crazy tilt and like punt it off. Like he's going to be extremely difficult to handle. So yeah.
Yeah, he's still got plenty of chips, right? He's still right in there. As we see him about to lose a pot here from Gafford, who led from the big blind. That's a pretty good lead by Gafford there. You got 4 to the straight. You're up and down. You got a backdoor flush draw. So pretty cool to see just a 9 high with a 6 lead the flop. And Martin, no other option than to continue past the flop and probably have to turn his hand to the dealer after facing this bet, since a lot of the bluffs now have gotten there.
Martin does get out of the way there. Gafford takes that one.
JC with a question. What happens if the river is an offsuit brick? Is it a mandatory all-in bluff for Adam in that last hand? I think that's a really good question. And I think it's, kind of a mandatory bluff because you would expect your opponent to bet their 10x, right? If they check raise the turn for value and they're going to just have a 10 a lot of the times. When they checked you on the river, that gives you a green light to try to get them to fold something. And you only have queen high. So, yes, typically the queen high would be a mandatory bluff there if checked too.
three-handed here in the $1,600 buy-in UltimateStack event at the Venetian Resort, Las Vegas. Fabulous new poker room, fabulous new streaming room. This deep stack series that's currently running is running through the end of March, through March 30th. So if you're in the area, maybe you're coming down in a week or two, you want to play some poker, highly encourage you to head on down to the Venetian. They have very, very accessible price points, along with some juicy guarantees attached to those. There's a $600 ultimate stack that has a $150K guarantee. There's an $800 ultimate stack that has a $200K guarantee. All of those are still upcoming on the schedule.
We see Martin switching strategies here a little.
Yeah, Martin limped the small blind here. Adler checked back. It comes Jack, Jack 6. Martin continues with his trip jacks. Adler comes with a raise.
So we
Martin
see the
calls.
gears switching, right? Adam was playing a little more passively. Now we see it switching from Martin playing a little more passively and Adam being aggressive. Adam now turning 2 pair. Maybe good enough for a value bet now.
Martin checking first. Adler checks back. 9 of spades on the river. 1.25 million out there.
So I would have questioned Adam to bet the turn because you can get value from a 6. You do beat some ace highs and king highs and stuff now. Now when faced with a bet from Martin on the river, if Martin does bet, your hand is essentially a bluff catcher because whatever size we see Martin use, unless he goes very small, it's probably just going to be a polar size of a jack or nothing.
So Martin is going to come with a pretty beefy value bet here.
Alright, 1.2 million 50,000.
So exactly a pot size bet here. 1.25 into 1.25. And now Adler with a decision.
I think this is kind of the trouble you get in if you don't bet your hand on the turn. But it's fine, you know. It's fine to check the turn as well. Induce bluffs on the river, that can make you more money in the long run sometimes, but this line is pretty strong by Martin. But we might get the shrug call, which is famous in poker when you don't know what to do.
Well, Adler's been pretty on point with all of his decisions today, at least. So, I mean, this is another tough spot. We'll see if he can figure it out. He does have the calling chips in his hand. He does make the call. He's going to see the bad news, of course. Jack 10 shown for Martin, and just like that, Paul Lozano Martin retakes the chip lead from Adam Adler. And with that, we are going to go to a short break here from the $1,600 Ultimate Stack at the Venetian. Take a look at the leaderboard before we head on out of here. Paul Lozano Martin is up on top, trailed by Adam Adler and Bradley Gafford. We'll be back in about 10 minutes, so go refill your beverages. Come on back for some more poker live from Venetian.
Jack 10 suited, and he moves all in.
I mean, just like I said, I'll keep preaching it. Everyone's under 20. We got all the chips. We can get them to fold their equity. We can get them to fold pretty good hands. But yeah, when you get called, someone's going to have ace king, someone's going to have queens. You're going to have decent equity with the the Jack 10 suited. And here we see Becker with a big pair. What's he going to do?
Jeremy Becker on 2.6 million. Little glance around the table potentially here, but these stacks are all running really close. He's on 17 bigs, Nadelko on 15, Pi on 13, and Alakani on 19. That is very important information.
2.3. You have 2.3?
This is
2.3.
really
What do you
close.
got?
This is really close. This might fall into the calling category because Shin is going to be shoving some high card, low card suited stuff like ace-4 suited, ace-3 suited, ace-5 suited. So you don't want him to turn over jack-10 suited. You want to have 70-30 here, but Becker might say, hey, this is enough hand. We got to run it.
How much does it matter to Becker that Shin is probably the toughest opponent at this table, and perhaps there's easier spots along the way here?
It could be easier spots, but this could be a very profitable spot he's
Right.
presented with here. So I think that's really what's weighing on his mind. Sevens, you don't question as much. Sixes, you wouldn't give a thought to. I think eights and nines is when you start saying, okay, I got to put some money in.
And there it is. Becker makes the call. We're going to have our biggest flip
Felt like a
of the day.
Hollywood to me. Hollywood?
Not really. It's a fair fight.
Fair fight.
18.
Jack-10 of diamonds versus pocket eights.
Let's gamble, Kit.
This is a huge gamble. Tournament defining, if I may say so. Let us know in the chat which side you're on. Shin versus Becker for all the chips right now. If Shin wins this thing, he might be all in for the next 10 hands to try and apply some pressure.
3-3, 2 diamonds.
On
For the
other
chip
side.
lead, baby.
It is. It is. And here comes the flop. Becker looking for those eights to hold up. Queen 4-4, 1 diamond. 2 backdoor options available, but it would be easiest for Shin to just hit a jack or a 10. If Shin loses this, it'll be Becker with the lead. And the 5 of diamonds all of a sudden gives Shin a flush draw. 14 outs here. 32% equity to bust Becker and take an enormous chip lead. Is it going to be there for Shin?
But I'm hoping 9 of spades.
It's not there. It's the deuce of clubs. And Jeremy Becker doubles into the chip lead after calling it off with pocket eights. Either way, we got Nedelku making it 250. Becker sitting on $1 million, looking down at ace-jack. Does he want to potentially get into a coin flip situation here?
This is probably the worst hand you're
775.
actually considering to go with, and I think it's a good spot considering his stack, and he's basically tied for shortest stack. And Nedelku has shown the aggression here to play how many hands in? 3 or 4 hands out of 12. So I like this shove.
Action back on the initial razor. Becker is ready for the pain. But Nedelku just has 6s. Oh, wow. Look at this. The action goes all in, and we've got ace-jack versus 6s.
Thank you.
Becker's tournament life on the line with the overcards. Nedelku not concerned
It's a classic.
about running into a higher pair.
What do I need here?
Did see 1-6 folded, did see 1 ace folded.
Becker, 2.3 million in the middle. Tournament life on the line. This is a tournament-defining type showdown as we see
Not the king queen.
King 7 queen.
2/3 of the way there.
Becker picking up a
Hold on,
Broadway
10 of
draw.
heart?
They're all hard, right? No.
Looking for
10 of heart
an
for the
ace, a
flush.
jack, or a 10.
7 of diamonds.
Backdoor hearts available to him as well. Becker needs some help though. Let's see the turn card.
Yeah, what? I can't take this.
Queen on the turn.
Oh my
Additional
God.
This is
outs.
classic. Too many outs.
The screen is almost too small.
Ace of clubs.
A true
Use of
50-50.
Classic case of too many outs, or is Becker
Oh my
going to
God,
deliver
this is
something on the river that keeps him alive?
Whoa.
And it is
Did I
the
say
ace
ace
of
of
clubs
clubs?
that keeps Jeremy Becker in the hunt, and this will change the tournament.
God. 1.6 million.
1.6 announced from Becker. He has 1.6 exact, so that will be an all-in shove.
That's all I got.
Shin. Seemingly with the
Said
hands
that was 6.4 bigs, right?
he wants to call
Wait, no,
with.
it's less than that. 6.
6.4. I think.
Good luck, buddy.
Oh, good
Thank
luck
you.
announced.
I have a famous hand. Oh my God, so sick.
Queen 4?
Jack 4
Jack 4.
for Becker. And is Shin
And he
on
has a
table
diamond.
a better jack by a pip or something?
Oh, you're suited.
Instead, it's a better
I'm taking
4.
the chips back. I think I'm winning this one.
King
I
4 versus Jack
You don't
4.
think so?
No.
Don't anti-sweat him. That's the mistake he made against you.
No.
Never anti-sweat the
I
short stack.
wasn't
Should be-
anti-sweating. I was,
No, no.
I was in the hand.
I know,
intermediate.
I know, but still. But you covered.
I feel like a jack on the flop. Did you have any cards involved? Be honest.
All right,
don't
Becker
remember.
looking for a Jack,
Oh my
a
God.
4, or diamonds.
It's just a cooler instead.
Instead, both players
Start
hit a
praying for
4.
a 3.
I have a 4.
Seven's not even good.
Becker looking for a Jack and
I'll
a Jack
take-
only.
Yeah, it's got to be a jack.
Running
An ace.
5-6.
I'll take an ace too.
Six
Or a
on the
5.
turn.
I'll take an ace or a jack.
Okay.
No, ace is not good.
Oh,
We're
no,
not done
5 or
yet.
jack. Sorry, I just started playing recently.
Jack would give Becker to double up. A
5 of
5
diamonds.
would make this thing a chop. Instead,
Okay.
it is the 7
Take
of
it.
diamonds,
Yeah.
and Jeremy Becker is eliminated in
Good
third
luck.
place, collecting
You
$47,000
got the
for
win.
his
You got a
efforts.
head start.
Without a clock and time extensions and all of that in play at these final tables, it's good. You know, there's not too much tanking. I know we've had some longer hands, but understandably so given those decisions. But you know, things are moving.
Seeing lots of love for LaPlante, for She in the chat. Victor has some fans. So does Sandberg. Stavia raising it up to 225 here. Gets over to Sandberg in the big blind with Queen 3 of clubs. Might we peel? Yes, we will. Sandberg is going to make the call, see a flop, hoping for something with a bit of connectivity to get his chips in the middle. And we flop a flush. Holy moly. 8-6-7. Sandberg flops a queen high flush. Stavia, let it be known, can still do one better with the 9 of clubs.
Yeah, Sandberg here just, I mean, try and contain your excitement inside. Can already feel the double up coming. Obviously, you know, you can be over flushed, yes, but unlikely so.
Sandberg peels from the big blind, flops the goods, and now, of course, looking to get the money in, and there we go. Stavia makes it very easy. A bet and a call, and Evan Sandberg's tournament life is on the line. You see it in the top left-hand corner of your screen. 1 out. Just 1 out Sandberg has to dodge, so he is very comfortable here, looking for a double up.
I feel like we're due for a straight flush. We've done enough of these streams now. I feel like we're due for a straight flush, right? I mean,
If you have to go out, might as well be doing 1 outer.
Yeah.
All right, Sandberg, be careful what you wish for. Turn and river still to come. Is Stavia going to find the miracle? Turn card is the 8 of spades. So far, so good. Stavia just needs to fade that 1 card that would make this room erupt. River card. It's the 9 of clubs!
my God.
Oh my God! Sandberg said it himself. If I go out, it might as well be against the straight flush.
He kind of willed it into existence.
I mean, this is his own fault.
They're going to see it in an hour.
Oh shit, that is so dirty.
Unless you're Ed with ace king on the button and you run into aces.
Raise 500 plus.
Raise the 500K here. We're playing 100, 200, and the Delku's 5s end up in the muck. Queen Jack suited here for Becker. Let's see if he wants to come with anything here.
Wow, like 5s snap into the muck. Interesting to see that. Queen Jack suited here. Typically, you like to just call, see a flop. Very high equity. You dominate some of the buttons openings. Maybe has some thoughts of all in.
Jeremy Becker with 2 very live cards, but he'd be quite a ways behind. Does some mathematics and does put enough in here to put Shin all in.
Oh yeah, yeah. Pocket.
Yeah, hold on, it might not be all in. How much you have?
7.
You're so annoying, dude.
Shin referring to the fact that Becker could have just said all in, then it will be binding no matter
What are
what.
we doing, bro?
And now,
Penalty.
Just flick the 3 in.
I might save the 3, honestly.
Enough with
You
this.
snap.
Enough with this.
What do they have?
I don't think you saw your hand.
Yeah, I didn't see your hand. That's what I said, don't you?
All right, we'll check it. We'll check what the flop is.
all right, 300K left
I'll
behind.
tell you what. I'll check.
Check.
Becker
All in.
still
I got to call him.
thinking there's ways he can escape, but with a gut shot to the nuts,
King and
he is going to make the call, and he's
oh,
finding out he's very live on top
Danger.
of that straight draw.
Let's see what happens. 300.
Shin's
very hard
tournament
to do.
life on the line here after being the chip leader for most of this final table.
I can't believe that wasn't 4. I thought
I
for sure that was
forget
enough for
5.
4. Yeah, I was just like, I thought you put enough for 4. I was just like, 3.7 was sneaky.
All right, Becker looking for some help here to send Shin to the rail. Shin would be happy to just
That's
watch
a
his
fucking
ace-king
bad
hold
card
up,
for me.
and this will greatly reduce Becker's chances to come out on top. 7 outs here for Becker, or Shin will double back into the chip lead. Let's see the river card.
Nice
It's
hand.
the ace of diamonds. Shin didn't need it, but he'll take it. And Jeremy Becker now down to 2.5 million. Aces for the chip leader. Heads up in the tournament. Sometimes it is just your day, and in this case, it is just your week.
I call.
And Shin with some trickery, limping in, and the Delku picking up pocket 8s, which is also
850.
a monster in heads-up play, and he quickly raises to 850. All right, welcome back, everyone. $1,600 Ultimate Stack final table from the Venetian Resort, Las Vegas. Paul Lozano Martin is the current chip leader, 3-handed. He's ahead of Adam Adler and Bradley Gafford. Blinds, 100,000, 200,000. These players are guaranteed $68,300. They are playing for a first place prize of $131,000. Back into the action here. My name is Donnie Peters. I have Tristan Wade alongside me. Thank you, everyone who is tuning in. Let's do a little roll call. We haven't done one today. Let us know where you are watching from. As I like to do, my thing is location, beverage, and the weather. That's what I want to know. You may not know, Tristan, but this is my version of, remember the old chat days when people used to just get in there and say ASL?
Yep.
This is my version of ASL. Deke Acosta, I see you out there. Aaron Roberts, I don't know what message was retracted, but let's keep it clean, please. Santa Claus is in the chat.
Santa Claus.
Little Mac.
All the way from the North Pole.
Gamble,
Drinking a hot
Z.
chocolate, perhaps.
Yeah. Angelique, Steve Falco, Yancey, OMC. I see everyone. If you are watching on the Venetian Poker Live YouTube channel, hit us with a subscribe. Throw us a like as well. Trying to grow this channel up over 2,500 subscribers. Just past 2,300 subscribers, so let's keep on climbing.
Let's go. I just see 222 likes, 223 likes. Let's go. It's a good number, 222. So what would be the ASL abbreviation? You said location, beverage.
And weather, LBV. LBW, sorry, LBV.
LBW.
LBW.
Okay.
That's what I like to see. See, Jim Bonnick's in there, Austin, vodka, and 88 degrees.
There you go.
All right, a couple of 7s here for Adler. Reminder, blinds, 100,000, 200,000. So min raise now, 400K. That's what Adler makes it. Martin comes along from the big blind. 10, 9, 8.
Regardless of what Martin has here, Adam should be considering checking back this flop like almost every time if option is presented to himself, just because he has an underpair and an up and down straight draw. But looks like we're going to see a lead from Martin.
450.
And Adam will now just default to the call. There's no value in raising this hand.
Second time we've seen Martin come with a lead out of the big blind. Earlier it was on, what, I think 8-6-4, I think was the flop. And he led there with 10-9 here, leading the 10-9-8.
So the idea behind Martin's strategy is you're going to lead with some good equity hands that want to start building the pot, and then some good equity bluffs. On this ace of clubs, it's kind of likely to check, as we see Martin do, because once you get called, this turn card favors your opponent. And now we have a spicy river card.
Yeah, Adler checks back. Jack of spades comes in on the river, so Adler makes a straight. Again, we don't know Martin's hand.
So I'm going to expect that Martin has some kind of like Jack 8. I think some of his 2 pairs combos would keep betting. And Adam checks back a straight on the river, which is shocking to me because you clearly have a value bet. And we do see a 2-pair hand, a 10-8 offsuit from Martin. So I'm kind of surprised a few things there that Martin didn't bet the turn.
Yeah.
And absolutely shocked that Adam doesn't bet the river with a straight. What? Like a lot of Martin's range there is a jack to lead the flop with some kind of equity, like a jack 8. Even the 2 pairs, like I said, the strategy from the big blind is to lead high equity hands. 2 pairs a very high equity hand. Okay, you check the turn. When you get checked to on the river, your opponent has value that they might call. They're definitely calling a river bet with an ace, if they somehow have an ace, or 2 pair. So big misstep by Adam to not value bet that river. I am shocked.
So Adler does scoop in that pot, even though he didn't bet the river. He collects it up to 7.325 million now. Just before that last break, we did see Martin move himself back into the chip lead. So just the gap lessening a little bit between those two. Gafford here is first to act. He's on the button, slash under the gun, 3-handed. He's got pocket 4s, and he's going to do one of those committing raises here.
21 bigs, 21 and a half bigs. I mean, the hand class that opts into shoving at that stack depth of 20 is around the 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. You could argue in ICM they want to maybe operate a little bit differently with some small raising. Probably not folding, but, you know, shoving or raising there is typically okay. Especially when they're short a stack, 3-handed.
Gafford on 4.775 here. He's been short a couple of times at this final table. He came into the final table with 8 big blinds. He was able to crack the aces of Patrick Leonard with ace king suited. He went runner, runner flush on that one. Then he got down to, I think, 6 big blinds again later on. Ended up finding another double up there. So, you know, Gafford's been very much hanging around. No one's been able to send him home.
Suited, connected hand here in the big blind. Let's see 3.
8, 3 deuce, rainbow here. There is 1 heart out there, and Gafford has hearts in his hand. Bottom pair for Martin. Martin was the pre-flop raiser here. 1.1 million in the middle. 325 is the bet. You'll notice that there are no longer the blue 5,000 chips on the table, just playing those orange 25Ks and the dark gray / brown 100Ks.
Before I do anything stupid.
Gafford may have had evil thoughts there, but he passes on it. Does not give in to the temptation. And Martin takes that one. Back up over 9 million for him.
Good idea from Bradley there, just to consider his options, because now we're playing short-handed poker, we're playing wide ranges. People aren't going to make strong hands all that often. So there is a lot of value in just playing back and being aggressive in these scenarios.
Adam Adler here, still sitting in second place on the leaderboard. 6.8 million for him. He's on the button, first to act. Gafford just elects to give it up, and Martin gets a walk. Bradley Gafford won the WSOP mini main event. I believe it was 2023 for right around $550,000. Adam Adler's got a career best score of 1.6 million. Fourth place in the WPT World Championship, and then Paul Lozano Martin, I believe, has a career best score of right around 225, 250K, something like that, but does have his results hidden on Hendon, so don't hold me to that one. I do know that Lozano Martin finished in 6th place at the Card Player Poker Tour event, same buy-in, $1,600, about a month ago here at the Venetian. Took home, I think it was 36K for that finish there. And here he's the chip leader, three-handed, trying to close this one out and get the W.
All in.
Adler going to jam here from the big blind over the raise from Gafford. Gets it through. Well timed by him. JPC said he hasn't seen the new room here at the Venetian. Well, it's glorious. Okay. Should come on over whenever you get the chance. It's very nice. Everything is very bright. I'm like I kind of nitpick everything. One of the things that I really like about this new room that could easily be overlooked is the fact that the TVs are very large, appropriately sized, and well placed. You know, oftentimes you go into poker rooms and like the TVs are too small or they're just too high, and like you don't think of all that sort of stuff. But these are like, they're great. You can see all different TVs from all different angles. They're not super high up. They're low enough that, you know, you're not straining your neck to look at them. They're very big. You can see everything. So, but you know, I like to nitpick. So Martin here raised on the button, 10-9 off. Adler comes in with a call from the small blind. Now Gafford suited connectors in the big, getting a very good price given the raise and the call.
We see Adam take a more cautious route with this middle pair, given the stack distribution. Don't really want to be too aggressive. I think that's a spot. 3-4 suited hits the muck, but for one big blind with a suited connected hand, that should typically make it.
So it comes Queen, Jack, 7, all hearts here. Adler does have the 6 of hearts, and Martin is open-ended.
For Adler, having a pair here and a heart is pretty formidable.
Check, check, and the 4 of hearts comes in on the turn. So Adler makes his flush. He checks.
I like this check by Adam. You're kind of in the middle of your value range. Sure, you have a flush, but you're either have your opponent drawing dead or you're dead yourself. So now, when it checks all the way down, you clearly have the best hand, most regardless of whatever your flush is now, and you should be value betting.
He does come with check, does Adler. Can't imagine he's going to fold if Martin decides to bet here. That said, decision point for Martin.
Martin now has to ask himself, would Adam have bet a flush by the river? And you would expect yes, but this is where the dynamics come into play and knowing your player tendencies. And Martin's going to value own himself here by betting his straight.
Quick call from Adler. The bet was $400,000, and Martin just taps the table. Nice hand, sir. And just like that, Adam Adler is back up on top. Not by a lot, but he is the chip leader. 8.55 million for him. Martin, 8.35 million. And then it's Bradley Gafford in the rear view with 3.25 million.
Not getting too complex there, but if you think of the strategy there, would Adam betting the river serve to win more money than checking and letting your opponent bet the river? How likely is it that your opponent's going to bet the river after they check it all the way down on that monotone board? I would argue Adam should set his price instead of letting your opponent do something goofy in that scenario, because they're just not going to be bluffing a whole lot there.
So 7-4 off again for Gafford in the small blind. Second time in a row that he's in the small blind with 7-4 off specifically. And second time he gives his opponent a walk. Gafford does have probably the most difficult and awkward position at the table three-handed just because he has Martin. I mean, listen, Adler's got a big stack as well, but I think Martin is shown, and we can see here, you know, via our stat screen that at least at this final table, Martin's had a VPIP of 50%, Adler's at 27%. I would say Martin's been a little bit more active than Adler has been. So if you're Gafford, you know, it's just kind of annoying that you have this big stack behind you, which going to those two folds there from the small blind, like he just doesn't want to have to play a pot. If I even like raise the 7-4 off just to try and, you know, win the pot right there, Martin might play back at me, which makes it tricky. Do I just want to call and have to play out of position? No. So I'll just fold, you know, whatever. Yeah, I might be giving something up, giving him walks, but the spot doesn't seem that great. So Martin here limps the 10-3 off. Adler, a very nice looking ace-queen, comes in with the raise. Quick fold from Martin.
To Donnie's point, there's a lot of value when there's 100K, 200K, 200K in the blinds and antes. There's a lot of value in just calling from the small blind, as we see a call from 10-3 offsuit there, right? You're putting in 100 to win 600. But to Donnie's point earlier, when you're Gafford situation on a dwindling short stack, there are some hands that are just that poor that you don't even want to enter the pot with because you're just bleeding chips. And I think the hands that we've seen him fold, like 7-4 offsuit, fall into that category.
Yeah, and the shorter that your stack is, ultimately, when you do go post-flop in a lot of scenarios, the shorter the stack-to-pot ratio is going to be. And then what that means is you're just going to be getting your money in more often. So probably just want to start with a better hand in order to then have better equity when you get it all in. Like, you probably don't want to get in there with 7-4 off, flop top pair of fours, and like you're just playing for your stack, right? So
all in.
Ooh, okay.
Gafford jams here. I mean, well timed, gets the ace to fold.
Yeah.
But we have seen, you know, Gafford get after it from the big blind in a couple of spots. He did it with the king 5 suited earlier. He did it with the ace 4 off earlier, and now there with the jack 8 off. Probably a spot where, you know, slightly unconventional, I would say yes, but widening his range a little bit because he's three-handed, thinking like, you know, I can treat a jack 8 suited kind of similar to how I might treat a jack 10 suited or a queen jack suited just because we're now three-handed. And if I get called, okay, I got jack 8 suited, I probably have fair equity.
And that's going to be a much more profitable play when your opponents are going to be raise folding like ace 6 offsuit and stuff like that. So another hand probably just folds, but it's not that awkward to see someone throw in half a big blind.
3 bad ones in a row there.
But yeah, I mean, look, he's saving chips. Like, that's...
You like that hand.
Yeah.
I do?
Yeah, 7-4 off, 7-4 off, and 5-3 off. So.
Win 10.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is good patience, too, from Gafford. You know, it's easy to just, like Tristan said, flick in that half a big blind and just say, okay, I'll see a flop or, you know, whatever. But that stuff adds up when you're shorter, and Gafford is displaying solid patience here.
Yeah, and there's that, the psychology of patience, right? You see a guy fold 3 small blinds, and all of a sudden he jams on you. You probably think like, oh man, maybe he's got a good hand here instead of just the jack 8 suited.
Hello.
But anyone's game here. We're three-handed at the Venetian. There's how much in play here? 20 million nearly. So we got 100 big blinds in play, and it's distributed pretty fairly right now. It's anyone's race.
Queen 8 suited here on the button for Gafford. And he has 18 big blinds.
425,000.
Makes it 425. Gets it through. Gafford is a poker player out of San Diego. I mentioned earlier that he won the mini main event, the WSOP, for a career best score of $549,000. Here, these three players are playing for $131,000 up top. 131.23, if you want to be exact. All from a $1,600 buy-in.
Cool.
So pretty good return there. Adler limps the small blind. Don't know his hand yet. Gafford with 5 deuce suited. Checks his option. Nine, 7, 6 with a couple of diamonds. Adler first. He checks.
Check.
Gafford with undercards does have a gutter.
Yeah, 5 high here. You might just want to start trying to win the pot now.
Bet 200,000.
But yeah, either way. Check or bet, you're going to see the turn.
Adler comes along.
Will you
An
put
even
pressure one more time?
1 million out there, and it is Jack 9 as we see now for Adler. Queen of spades here on the turn. Adler's pair of 9s still best.
Check.
He checks.
So you typically rather have like an 8 in your hand to keep bluffing, or some other added overcard equity. This 5 deuce of hearts is kind of looking abysmal right now. But how do you win this pot without betting? So pretty natural to see a bet here. And even though it's not going to work, I think overall the strategy is sound.
750,000.
750K, so 75% pot here from Gafford.
And this bet is basically trying to get floats to fold, some ace highs, some poor diamond draws that don't have any added equity, maybe some 6x. But other than that, a 7, a 9's not folding, a queen's definitely not folding, and something like, I don't know, king jack of diamonds is just never folding. What?
Ooh.
What?
Adler gives
What
it up there.
am I seeing here? I am baffled. You will have a limped pot here where you flop top pair on a massively draw-heavy board and you're folding to 2 barrels. That's just inconceivable in my world. Inconceivable, Donnie.
I mean, that does seem quite a bit conservative there.
Your opponent could be betting worse for value. They could have like 8-9. They could have 9-10. They could maybe even have some 7, like 7-8 potentially. Now, I think that's a little down in the rung, but they have bluffs. Everyone has bluffs. You can't be folding hands that strong. You just can't. I'm speechless. And again, that just has to go to like the psychology, I guess, of what they view Gafford as.
Yeah,
but
sure.
In a limped pot with wide ranges, that's an inexcusable fold.
So ace-king suited here for Gafford, and he does limp in. Martin electing to check his option, so off to a flop we go. 8-6-4 with a couple of clubs. Right color, wrong suit for Gafford.
Immediately uncomfortable with ace-king of spades right now.
Check.
Which leads Gafford to check this flop here, and Martin probably going to start betting, just given the way he's proceeded a lot of times. He does.
400,000.
400,000.
Yep, Martin should bet a 5, a 7, clubs, an 8 or 6 for value. And this is just immediately an awful spot for ace-king suited. Now, the thing you have going for you with ace-king of spades is you don't block any of these bluffs, clubs, 5x, 7x, but very tough to navigate here out of position facing 2 more streets of action.
I call 2.
I believe that.
So Gafford does fold there. Also, you know, another spot where he exudes patience because it can be a tricky situation where, you know, you can oftentimes just say like, well, I got a call. I have ace king. I played it slow. Like my hand is too good. But listen, sometimes you're just not going to get a good flop or a good texture in general on a board, and it's just best to move on, right? So, and look at that. You just get rewarded for the patience by picking up a couple of aces on the next hand.
Easy game.
Raise 425.
425 is the raise here from Gafford. And Martin has an interesting one with Queen Jack off in the small blind.
Can see a call here. I don't think you want to start 3-betting this hand, so yeah, makes sense.
He does get in there with the call. The 4-deuce offsuit was folded from Adler in the big blind, so heads up we go. 1.25 million out there. Queen 3-3, and this is going to be some action here.
This is
Martin probably feels really good about 2-pair in this situation. Gafford, of course, loves the fact that he has aces. Probably doesn't put any 3s whatsoever in the range of Martin with the way he's coming here from the small blind. So understandably nice and small.
Yep,
225.
We do see a range bet here, of course. This aces was actually so strong you could contemplate checking it back
yeah,
here.
that is true.
Because you have aces up, and even if your opponent has a hand like we see, they're drawn to 2 outs. But it's kind of natural for people just to bet this flop.
It's almost more kind of like a red flag if you do check back. Because Lozano has shown me nothing other than he seems extremely studied and extremely comfortable in all different types of flop textures. So if he knows that and he sees his opponent say check back, he's like, oh, well, that's kind of alarming, you know?
Yeah, and it is, but that's the balancing act, because what other strong hands do we really have to check back the flop?
Yeah, no,
Maybe
true.
a 3. But kings doesn't want to as much because of the overcard of the ace. But all right, what are we going to see now?
Yeah, so 7 here on the turn. 1.7 million out there.
And this is where it starts to get uncomfortable for Queen Jack. You're not going anywhere, but the alarm bells are sounding in the distant, in the distance. It's like, wait, do I hear? Is that something? Should I be alarmed here, or am I bluff catching accordingly? So I think it's kind of natural to see a call here, and then maybe a decision where you can make some miraculous fold unimproved. River cards you don't want to see are obviously a king, an ace, and in Martin's case, a jack.
So the bet is for an even 1 million. Martin does call, and a king comes on the river. So one of those cards you mentioned, Tristan, that Martin might not want to see here. There's 3.7 million out there. There's 2.6 million in the stack for Gafford. So he has sized this appropriately to just go 3 streets and try and get max value with a jam here.
Yep, and you said it. That's it. Like, we've made this pot big. We have 2/3 pot bet left. We have a value hand. I'm all in. Now, the problem with Martin's hand is some of the bluffs that bet
All in.
All in.
the flop and turn have now improved, right? If we have king jack, if we have king 10, if we have ace king as some kind of quasi semi bluff or something. But the bluffs are going to come from king x at block, basically king queen. And immediately uncomfortable, and maybe this is now enough of a recipe to fold against someone who we think is not.
And look at
bluffing
that.
here.
That is a very disciplined fold. He did not think about it all that long, Martin. So well done by him there. I know he did ultimately lose chips pre-flop, flop, and turn, but was able to save himself an additional 2.6 million by folding that river. And look at this leaderboard now, folks. As close as it's ever been three-handed. Gafford is up to 6.3 million. Still the shortest stack, yes, but right there with Martin, who's on 6.4.
I think it's.
And then Adler, 7.45. So absolutely anybody's game.
6, 7, 7.4.
6-4.
6-4. Okay.
And you just got to think, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of these other players and what they view each other as. And, I think Gafford's just getting a lot more credibility than he deserves, but he's also been the most kind of in line, I guess you should say. Although Adam hasn't only stepped out of bounds once. Okay, so I would like to see Gafford start playing more raises from the small blind with value hands. Like the ace-king suited, I think, would have been a good one.
You said you have like 6-4?
I think
6-4,
this one
okay.
is a good one to just start naturally raising. But we'll see how he wants to proceed. This is anyone's game, like Donnie mentioned. Everyone's got 30 bigs. You can't really screw up playing these hands unless you fold.
So it does look like a raise is coming from Gafford here.
Raise. 625,000.
625. Martin finds 8-7 offsuit in the big blind. Suited variety, certainly playable. Unsuited, he deems good enough as well.
Yep, we take these to a flop, play in position for 3 bigs.
King 5 deuce with a couple of clubs out there. Ace of clubs is in the hand for Gafford.
Pretty dry flop. We have the range advantage. We have the ace of clubs. I think a small bet is typically in order. Shouldn't get played back at from hands like Martin has. Although, there are some sticky customers that do like to float.
Yeah, 550,000.
550 and a quick fold out of Martin. And just like that, we are seeing Bradley Gafford now challenge for the chip lead right there with Adam Adler. Adler still has the lead, yes, but one more pot in the way
Look
of
at this.
Bradley Gafford.
Yeah,
he's gonna take over that chip lead.
Yeah, started with 8 bigs
8
today.
bigs, yeah.
Had, you said 7 bigs or 6 big? He had 30K at 4K big blind or
Yeah,
something?
I'm gonna look that up just to confirm I wasn't, spewing some nonsense earlier.
So yeah, I mean, just battling it out, patience, a little bit of luck, and here he is with almost a chip lead after coming in this final table so short.
Call.
Yeah, Bradley Gafford came into day 2 with 29,000 when the big blind was 4,000. Paul Lozano Martin came into day 2 with, just to put this in perspective, okay, coming into day 2, the big blind was 4K. There were 64 players remaining. Bradley Gafford had 29,000.
Wow.
Paul Lozano Martin had 1.434 million. And now both of them are 3-handed.
That's crazy.
It just goes to show you, listen, you're never out of it in a poker tournament. If you have chips, just
100,000.
do your best to fight as best that you can. Yeah, the shorter you are, probably the luckier you're going to have to get, of course. But don't just give up, because it can happen.
Close.
Never give up. Never back down. Always fight. So yeah, at this point of a tournament, I know I'm sitting here preaching theory and balance and strategy and crap, but a lot of it comes from game flow, how I'm feeling, what's the momentum, and I think that's why we're seeing some of this diversion.
Well, yeah, it's always good to be rooted in foundational theory, right? But then, you're playing against other humans. They're doing different things. You're going to have to make adjustments, deviations from what you think might be like baseline strategy. Of course, You know, that always comes into play. You also have added aspects of like, okay, this is a tournament. My life is on the line. Do I want to risk it? Like, you know, you have all these elements, and you have to weigh them in the moment, and it's never easy, and it's not easy, and you can only hope to make the best decisions at the current time to put yourself in what is the best position to ultimately come out on top.
Yep, absolutely. That's very well said, Donnie, because, you know, there's no perfect way to play this game. Very tough to navigate. And this hand starts very interestingly enough. We see Adam Adler limp 2/8, somewhat trapping from the small blind, and then c-betting one big blind and gets floated here by the Jack-7 with the Jack of clubs. So interesting float. Does Gafford has plans to take this pot down, or does he think his Jack high somehow has showdown value?
Check.
And forget showdown value. I now have showdown with a pair of jacks.
Check.
And going to be a spot where he should now bet, and Adam has a reasonable bluff catcher. Likely going to be facing a bet from a 10 or a jack given this line. I don't think Gafford would have won this pot had he not hit a jack.
Bet 650,000.
And if this pot gets to showdown, I think this is one of those hands that changes the momentum and changes the game flow. That Adam is going to see, this guy floated me with Jack-7 on this flop. And I think that might start making people alter their strategies after seeing some of these showdowns, if this does get to showdown.
Adler does get out of the way there. Doesn't pay the additional $650 to see it. And if he did, he would have been wrong. So saves himself some chips, and we do now see Bradley Gafford is the chip leader, $7.625 million. Adler second, 7.15. Paul Lozano Martin has now slipped to third, 5.375, but still very healthy for him. 26 big blinds for the Spaniard. Three-handed here. Everyone's guaranteed $68,300 up top. 131,000. Second place is just under 94K. This is a $1,600 buy-in tournament. So these players are getting pretty good payouts here based on what they entered for.
Been being very friendly.
Gafford just continues that patience from the small blind. He's like, you know what, you're not going to get me. Okay.
Yeah. When people talk like that at a poker table, like, oh, I'm being so friendly, you're not being friendly. You have 6 deuce.
Yeah, but
like,
you got to make them seem like you're being friendly.
That's
you know
the shtick, right? That's like, oh yeah. He's like, I don't want to hear what anyone has to say to me at a poker table unless you're like showing me your hand. Then I'll believe you. But other than that, like, it's all BS.
Yeah, but as he said earlier, much earlier on the final table, Bradley Gafford, he always does like the half BS. He said he kind of half lies.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe he's being slightly friendly, but also really he just doesn't want to get involved, you know, with those hands.
I get it.
That said, it is a different situation though because he's now the chip leader, right?
True.
He can apply a little bit more pressure should he want to. So I guess just keep an eye on that as we see Martin and Adler here go to a flop. Both have a deuce in their hand.
Bet 200,000.
Martin comes out with the bet, 200K. He limped from the small blind. Adler checked back. Adler flops 2 pair, and it's going to be hard to get him off this one. He calls. 4 on the turn.
Martin, which is bottom of range, after you get called on this flop, you kind of hate it. You have no other pathway to victory. You kind of just give up. King highs call you. Queen X calls you. Your opponent could even have some ace X to check pre-flop. So I don't think we're going to see anything out of Martin here.
Another 4 here on the end. 1 million even out there, and Adler's going to try and get some value. Martin does not continue. And Adler takes that one, and now he's back into the chip lead. So with as close as these stacks are, with as big as the blinds are and the pots ultimately are, probably going to be a fair amount of the chip lead changing hands three-handed here in the $1,600 buy-in ultimate stack at the Venetian Resort, Las Vegas.
We're in Las Vegas. Can you believe it? I mean, what a city. What an event. Poker at the Venetian, at the Palazzo. I know it's Venetian poker, but they're connected, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely connected. I was telling Remco the other day during the cash game stream, one of the best things that I like about also, I know I've raved about this poker room, but they've done things great, so I can't not talk about it. The fact that I can drive into the Palazzo parking garage, park my car, go into the elevator, there's a button that says poker room, and go like basically straight up to the poker room. I don't have to walk through a casino. I don't have to do all this other nonsense. I just know I can just go directly to where I want to go and avoid everything else, which I just really like, you know. It's the little things that get me.
It's a rarity in Vegas to have that kind of convenience in a city full of that.
And for those of you who may be getting a little bit of the itch to play some poker, especially if you want to come check out the new room here at Venetian, definitely head on down. This Deep Stack Showdown series is running through the end of the month. Plenty of events running every single day. I know they have a $600 ultimate stack with a 150K guarantee coming up. I believe that starts on Saturday. It'll have 3 starting flights. And then a little bit later on, they have an $800 buy-in ultimate stack with a 200K guarantee. Personally, I think I'm going to try and get in both of those. You know, I've been dying to play in the new room. I have not yet. Every time I walk in here, I come for work and I have to go to work, but I like almost get sucked into the tables, you know, fight the urge. But yeah, hopefully I'll be dabbling pretty soon. So we have a raise here from the small blind. No more Mr. Nice Guy from Gafford.
All in.
And Martin says all in. Gets it done. Quick fold from Gafford there.
I too will be playing some of the events here. I have been playing. No success thus far, but I can't wait to
We
make
probably have roughly the same.
a final table. I can't wait to win one of these Venetian lion.
7-1.
The winged lion.
Yeah, the winged
The
lion.
winged lion.
trophies.
That's 7,450.
They're pretty awesome. You can see it kind of behind
5,570.
Adam Adler there. And then I believe when they get to heads up, they'll put it on the table. But yeah, one of the
Yeah, I
best
need one of
trophies in the
those.
game.
I need one of those. Yeah.
I need a trophy,
one.
period. They could give me a napkin as far as I'm concerned if I win. I mean, it's just...
Next time I see you enter a tournament, I'll give you a participation trophy.
That's very
that
nice of
sign?
you.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
great. And then I'll punch you.
Call.
Martin with a limp here. 10-6 off. 10-7 off for Adler in the big.
Check.
He checks. So similar holdings here between these two. Ace, Queen, 3.
Bet. 250.
Bet from Martin and a fold.
So what are the other events that are going to be live streamed by Venetian? Is it mostly the staple, bigger, no limit hold'em events?
Well, I will have to look it up.
Okay.
But I will have an answer for you.
Okay.
I mean, Venetian is for sure. We had Tommy LaRosa, director of poker operations here, the other day to chime in, and I mean they are very much all about the stream.
I can
right?
tell. Yeah.
We have these tournaments here, like these final tables for their big events. That'll probably happen. Let's say 2 times a month on average, right? And then weekly cash games running. You know, but yeah, there's plenty of stuff coming up. So we have. I'm just looking at the schedule right now. Bunch of cash games coming up starting Saturday. You know, there's going to be another 100, 200 no limit that's coming up. I know in early April, $800 ultimate stack, 200K guarantee. So final table of that one will be live streamed, or at least is planned to be live streamed. And then, you know, everything kind of leads into the summer when they want to do a ton of live streaming,
Ooh,
you know?
Spicy.
I mean, it's going to be big. It's going to be crazy.
It already is.
Raise.
Yes, it already is. I mean, having this presence and these eyes on the game in a new poker room, it's just awesome. You got to love it. If you're a fan of poker, like, we love it. Unbelievable.
Yeah, one of the best things about the Venetian stuff specifically is just that these price points are extremely accessible for a lot of different people. So, you know, if you're someone who has aspirations of playing on a stream or quote-unquote TV, right? Like, this is a great avenue to possibly do that. You know, not everyone has 5,000, 10,000, 25,000 to play the big tournaments that often get live streamed, right? But here, Venetian is certainly giving the opportunity for the players who frequent much affordable price points, much more affordable price points, like myself, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
to take a shot and, you know, maybe you're out here playing. But you also have big stars as well. We've had, you know, Pads was playing, Patrick Leonard, you know. He plays everything, so he's out here battling. You get a lot of big names that are battling as well. They run a nice, good, high-quality ship here with a lot of value for the players.
Yeah, $1,600 price point is still a professional price point.
For sure.
You know, like there's plenty of pros that are playing this buy-in. It doesn't have to just be the large buy-ins like Donnie mentioned. So pretty cool. You can showcase your skills here on stream.
So pre-flop here, this one was raised by Adler to 500K. Martin called from the big blind.
Okay.
Martin check called 525 on the flop. Action goes check, check on the turn. The deuce of diamonds here on the river makes a flush for Martin. It also makes a wheel for Adler, but of course it's a no good wheel. Let's see how Martin wants to proceed.
Check.
He comes with check. Adler checks behind.
Diamond. Flush.
Yeah, interesting check with the diamond. It's a spot where you could probably start going for some value. But whatever. Player's happy to take it to Showdown. Adam with the straight and Martin with the flush.
Yeah, now we have Adam Adler has now slid back to third place. 5.7 million for him. And Paul Lozano Martin, after taking a couple of pots recently, is back up into the chip lead. 7.35 million for him. So, you know, as we somewhat predicted, probably going to be a fair amount of swings as it pertains to where these players are placed on the leaderboard. All three have held the chip lead at one point during three-handed play. And I would guess are probably going to do so once again, just with the way things are kind of swinging in one direction or the other.
Cool.
One thing we've seen from Martin is not playing, like, sure, these are limps and this is passive or whatever, but not finding any folds, basically, from the small blind. I think that's kind of what I'm understanding as his strategy here, which is good. That's a good strategy in a big blind ante format, especially against someone who you deem to not be overly aggressive.
I mean, specifically, he's been doing a lot of limping from the small blind and then just betting all flops. Like I mean, if you were to look up that specific line, it has to be a pretty high percentage. And it's been working quite a bit. Obviously, you know, if your opponent whiffs, it's going to be hard for him to continue, yes. So just kind of a lower variance way to pick up chips. Here's a look at the updated leaderboard. Paul Lozano Martin is up on top. He's approaching 8 million once again. He got up over 11 million at one point. He started this final table as the chip leader. During three-handed play, he was down to third in chips, but has since climbed back in the last, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes. It's currently Adam Adler as the short stack, 21 big blinds for him, 5.2 million. And then Bradley Gafford's in the middle on 7.1 million. Big blind is now 250K. As a reminder, these players have all locked up $68,300. That is the third place payout. Second place, $93,960. And first place, $131,023 plus the Winged Lion Trophy. And all the bragging rights, baby. All the bragging rights.
Is that really how you describe the trophy? Winged.
That's
lion?
what I was told, or maybe I read. So now I just go with it.
Okay, just curious.
I mean, it's a lion
Just
with wings.
Testing
I
your
mean, listen,
your
I could
knowledge.
be totally wrong, and if I am, please someone correct me. But I mean, it looks like a lion and it's got wings, so
Yeah, no.
it might have some like mythical creature name that
Yeah.
I'm blanking on. But hey. So Adler limped here from the small blind.
250.
Don't know his hand. Gafford, 6-5 off, is going to bet 10-8 deuce, and Adler gives it up there. Scott Farnbach asking asking how many entries in this tournament. 508. Aaron Collins asking if deals are allowed. Yes, deals are allowed. I think it was the MSPT Poker Bowl final table here at Venetian that they made a deal. I think they might have made 2 deals actually, like one either 3 or 4 handed and then another one heads up. I also do believe that you have to leave a certain percentage to play for, so you can't just like chop even and go home. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean they'll certainly help facilitate deals. But I have heard nothing about a deal at all. Haven't heard these players bring it up at the table. So my guess is not interested. I mean, Gafford, he won the WSB Mini main event for $550K. Adler has a career best score of 1.6 million. Paul Lozano Martin has plenty of big scores, and I believe his career best is like 250K, I think it was, or right around there. So, these are the type of players who might just want to play for it all.
750.
Yeah.
Big hand alert from both players here.
750,000.
And Gafford did start this one off with a limp, and then was hit with a raise from the big blind from Martin. So Gafford might have aspirations to just go limp jam here.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of chips, 30 bigs. I think you can get value post-flop and play a flop here.
He does call, and here we go. Clubs would, of course, be the worst news for Martin. But let's see how this one develops. 7-3-3 with 2 spades out there.
Check.
So even with king-queen here, you might want to start taking your showdown value now. I mean, there is some merit to just betting your hand strength. King-queen high serves to be the best, and that's what we see Martin choose here. But once you start getting called, the gig is up. You probably don't continue to bluff this candidate without having spades, without having some other backdoor equity, without having such a poor hand. King-queen is pretty strong here. You can even get called by worse. Let's say someone has like queen-jack with 1 spade, queen-10 with 1 spade, king-10 with 1 spade. So not all that awkward for either player yet until now.
Queen on the turn, that drills Martin with the best hand. 2.6 million out there. Gafford checking once again, continuing to play in flow with this one.
And if you're Martin, you're happy. Once you get called on the flop, it's a little concerning. You might not have the best of it, but right now you're pretty comfortable. Sure, spades are in your opponent's range, but it's Martin's prerogative. Does he want to take a value bet now or wait till the river? It's pretty easy to value bet this. You're going to get floated by weak hands on the flop. And you just made a pretty strong hand. Queen's up with a king kicker.
So some people are telling me that the lion is called a griffin, but I thought a griffin was like an eagle head, not a lion head.
All right, griffin animal, let me see. Because
Thank you, though.
Mike H. in the Venetian Poker Live channel says, the Venetian lion, the winged lion, is a well-known symbol of Venice.
Yes.
Representing the city's pride and identity. That sounds like it aligns, guys.
I did do my research here. The Lion of Venice.
Yeah, the Lion of Venice. There we go.
Is what it is. The Lion of Venice. It's originated, some rumblings of it becoming famous from Venice, Italy.
So clearly, the Venetian Poker Live chat knows what they're talking about, and the PokerGO chat has no idea what they're talking about. Okay, so
The Venetian
so
live
the
chat,
smart kids are on the Venetian Poker
Yeah,
Live channel,
they-
as
those
we
are-
expected, guys, as we expected. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Venetian Poker Live YouTube channel. Throw us a like as well. Martin limping here from the small blind. Adler checking his option in the big blind. It comes king 9-9. So trips here for Adler. Gutter for Martin. Spurious News saying, yes, as expected. Yeah, I know. I know where the smart kid reside, and they reside at the Venetian.
All right, so
Action goes check, check. 3 of diamonds on the turn.
Yeah, Adam checking the flop as a trap, and now trying to spring the trap. And Martin with actually a pretty strong holding here, even though it's only queen high. Probably getting to a river here. We beat bluffs. We still can draw to the jack to make a straight. Maybe our queen, our 10 is good. But we are unimproved, and now we only beat bluffs.
4 diamonds here on the river. Probably viewed as a blank in the minds of these players. And Adler now has free reign to just go for value. 1.35 million out there. I will say that one thing we haven't seen yet is an overbet.
True.
Not that it'll happen on this hand. I just realized that we haven't seen it at all. That looks like 800.
And now this is a line from Adam that could contain bluffs. If you have no showdown value, you would expect to start betting the turn and potentially the river. So for Martin to consider this, it's not that blasphemous. I will say. I was thinking of a good word.
Martin does give it up, though. And Adler takes that one. Final 3 players here in the $1,600 Ultimate Stack from the Venetian Resort Las Vegas. The event had 504 entries. First place, 131,000 and change. These final 3 players, Paul Lozano Martin, Adam Adler, and Bradley Gafford, guaranteed $68,300. And here we see Martin with ace-7 of diamonds on the button, comes in with the raise to 500K. Adler with a pretty good king-9 of spades. When you're 3-handed, you know, everything starts to kind of go up in value, so keep that in mind. Let's see how he wants to proceed. He is the shortest of the 3 stacks, sitting on 22 bigs. Comes with a call.
Think him as a short stack there has all the options available to him. An all-in seems like a lot, but for 22 bigs, it's not. That could have been a formidable play. Call, I think, is kind of natural as well.
50K back, I think.
You're happy to put in chips against the button wide opening range with a really sexy playable hand.
So Gafford's out of the way from the big, leaving this one heads up. Jack 6-5, a couple of hearts out there. Advantage Martin, of course, has the positional advantage as well. Adler checks. Martin checking back the ace high. Deuce of clubs on the turn.
So notice Martin doesn't continuation bet here. He has enough equity with an ace high and a backdoor flush draw where he says, you know what, I'm against a tighter conservative range from the small blind. I'm not going to just bloat this pot. I'm going to take my showdown value to the river.
Check, check on the turn. Queen of spades here on the river. Ace high beats king high, but that means it has to go to showdown. So Adler checks, and Martin checks back, and he's going to win it.
Yeah, an interesting proposition for Adler on the river. Do I want to turn my king high into a bluff? It's a lot of hand. It doesn't necessarily need to bluff. Something weaker, kind of mandatory too. But those little pots are the little jabs of a short-handed poker game that maybe ultimately lead to someone being the victor, right? If I'm fighting for these 5 and 6 big blinds more than my opponents, you know, that changes the tides there. That's, you know, $1 million in my stack and $1 million off Martin's stack. So even though that hand was played fine, sometimes there's merit to being aggressive.
And speaking of those changing tides, it is now Martin who has started to stretch out a lead over both of his opponents, Adler and Gafford. Now right around a similar chip stack.
Again.
5 million for Adler, 5.675 for Gafford.
I don't
And
think I've
Martin
gotten
gets
anything
a walk
higher than,
there, so even more chips for him as he tries to get
7 in that spot.
back over the 10 million chip mark. He was over it for a bit earlier in the day. I think he topped out at a little bit over 11 million. But it's still very swingy. You know, the blinds are now pretty big, 250K big blinds, so a couple of pots one way or the other, and either Adler or Gafford could find themselves into the chip lead, you know, within moments' notice. So don't look away. Still plenty of action here from the Venetian in this $1,600 Ultimate Stack event.
Martin stretching his lead, right? Does he start to put the pedal to the metal?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so, right? And your opponents are now floating around that 20 to 22 big blind range, 23 big blind range, where they're kind of want to play for all of it pre in a lot of spots. So it's, I don't know, you can just take advantage, I think, a lot. Here, of course. Not really going to be able to take advantage of this one because your queen deuce is absolutely crushed by the 2 queens of Adler.
So the next level play here is to have some calls with queens. It seems really uncomfortable because you just feel better. Oh, let me just get the money in with queens. But when you see your opponents having hands like this, queen deuce, and you have 2 queens, obviously if you could see, you would just call. So it's natural to see Adam just 3-bet this hand, but I do think there's a universe when you're up against someone who's raising such a wide range that you get to flat some of those hands as traps and play your 20 big blinds in position because they're going to have like 1 overcard at best, basically.
Yep. Well, with that pot, I know it wasn't the biggest pot as a result, but it is important that it puts Adler ahead of Gafford on the leaderboard. If those 2 were to get the money in right now, Adler would at least have the covering stack. Martin going to give up the 9-5 off. And Adler's just going to give Gafford a walk there. And on to the next hand we go.
I could tell that small blind of Adam was hitting the muck with how hard he peeled.
Yeah. It was that bad,
the
right?
The snapback from him looking at his cards had to be that bad. I could just feel it.
Queens again.
Raise 500,000.
Adler makes it 500K. Ooh. Ace, Jack off for Martin in the big blind. 3-handed play. You're up against an opponent who's on 22.5, 23 big blinds there. So we could see quite a big pot here. I mean, it could just go all in right now.
Call.
There's the jam. Snapped off by Adler. Understandably so with those queens.
Just two huge hands going to battle. What else can you say for the chip lead pot?
So Adam Adler here is going to be at risk.
You guys think you're going to win?
100%.
You think you're winning? Okay.
Wow.
Ace 4.
Martin's 100%, he said.
Ace 4-4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adler doesn't respond. Of course, it's never fun when your tournament life is on the line. Ace, 9, deuce. That does put Paul Lozano Martin in the lead here. Adler's going to need a queen. There are 2 left in the deck. Jack of hearts on the turn.
Oh, fuck.
She peeled it slower here. I was wondering. That was close.
Queen of diamonds or the queen of clubs is needed on the river, or Adam Adler's going to be out in third place. The 10 of clubs, and that is going to send Adam Adler home. $68,300 for him. Got his money in there in a great spot to double up into the chip lead. Just got outdrawn, and what are you going to do?
Tough. Like you said, Donnie, man, that just sucks. You get your money in as a 70% favorite.
What you got?
Don't hold up for the chip lead pot. 3 left.
You think you win?
Here's a look at the leaderboard. 14.6 million up top for Paul, Lozano, Martin, and Bradley Gafford. Started the day as the short stack. He has made it to heads up play. These guys are going to battle for the $131,000 first place prize. Short break here coming up to set up heads up play. We're only going to be gone for 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll be back. So refill your beverages and buckle up, because here we go.
For the chip leader, heads up in the tournament. Sometimes it is just your day, and in this case, it is just your week.
I call.
And Shin with some trickery, limping in, and the Delku picking up pocket 8s, which is also
850.
a monster in heads-up play, and he quickly raises to 850. We are in for some fireworks, ladies and gentlemen.
This is insane. I mean, 2 huge hands heads up. The money would have been in already had it been a raise from the button, but now Shin has to contemplate if he wants to just call and trap, or is he trying to put more money in pre-flop.
Call.
And he is going to continue with the trap. Now Shin, not knowing that he's actually looking for a specific type of flop, and the cards need to stay small, or else he might lose his customer. Instead, we see Queen, Queen 10, all overcards here to Nedelku.
Bet 400,000.
Going smaller than before, betting 400,000 in this one. And now there's absolutely no reason to raise.
Yeah, spot on, Remco. I think if any of the viewers noticed, Nedelku seemed a little nervous when he was c-betting there. I don't know if anyone caught that. Seemed a little awkward, uncomfortable. I think he's now navigating muddied waters that he's not too confident in. So we probably won't see him put a whole lot more money in.
7 on the turn.
But he could have the best hand overall.
Right.
Against a limp range, this could be called by Jack 9, by some ace highs, some king highs, but natural for him to check here.
Nedelku slows down. Action now on Shin. If he had been able to see the cards, or if he watches this back, he'd be like, man, I could have just gotten it in there pre, because that's how strong Nedelku's hand is. However, now that we are on the turn, that strength has weakened by quite a bit.
So this is a spot where you can just have a small bet. And it looks like that's what we're going with. You keep a wider range in there. The pot's going to be big enough to have a 1-to-1 stack to pot ratio to get all the money in on the river. You let your opponent maybe make a misstep. Now notice Shin doesn't have a club in his hand. If our opponent has like ace-x of clubs, some other club combos, maybe we see those enter as an all-in kind of candidate. But Nedelku has a really tough spot here. He can still have the best hand, and it's not that uncomfortable to see a call here. I think it's kind of natural to want to get to the river here with 2 8s.
All right, river brings the 5 of spades after Nedelku calls. 4 million in the middle. Nedelku has 3.5 million left. Is Shin going to swing for the fences here, hoping that Nedelku can find the call with the weaker hand? This is a huge pot.
All right, welcome back to the action here. Heads up play. Paul Lozano Martin versus Bradley Gafford. You guys can see the leaderboard on your screen. Big lead for Lozano Martin. And there is the winged lion, the Venice lion.
The infamous.
The Venetian lion.
Yes. It's not a griffin, whoever said that.
It's definitely not a griffin. Heads up for about $37,000 in difference between first and second. First place is $131,000 and $23. Second place, that's what these guys have locked up, $93,960. Coming into day 2 of this tournament, 64 players were left. Paul Lozano Martin was in first place with 1.4 million, a little bit over 1.4 million. Bradley Gafford right here had 29K. Second to last on the leaderboard, the big blind was 4K. They are now heads up in the tournament. Today, Lozano Martin began with the chip lead, and a hefty chip lead at that. Bradley Gafford had 8 big blinds.
Crazy.
And these two are now heads up. And here we go. 9-9-7 here on the first hand of heads up play.
$215.
250,000. Bet 250.
So interesting to see the 8 deuce, one of the worst hands in poker. See a flop here playing their position. And king high, kind of a natural call here to just hesitate your opponent from continuing bluffing, right? They have a wide range.
Well, deuce on the turn puts Gafford in the lead here.
So a spot where you have a mixed strategy of checks and some small bets. Small bet being you can still get called by some overcard stuff, some high card, ace high, king high, even 10-8, 8-6, jack 10, whatever else. So there is some merit to value betting your deuces up, your 9s and deuces here.
And he is going to do just that. And Martin says, no thank you. I called once, but that's it. That's all you're getting from me. First pot goes to Bradley Gafford as he tries to close that gap. Still better than 2-1 though for Martin. Big blind still 250K. My name is Donnie Peters. I got Tristan Wade alongside of me. No idea how long this is going to last, but do want to thank everyone out there who has tuned in to watch the final table of this $1,600 buy-in UltimateStack event here at the Venetian Resort Las Vegas. If you're in the area, definitely come check out the room, especially if it's this month, because this Deep Stack Showdown poker series is going to be running through March 30th. Coming up in, I think, like a week or 2 weeks is the $800 UltimateStack event with a 200K guarantee, and the final table of that is planned to be live streamed right here on Venetian Poker Live. Plenty of cash games coming out of this room as well. Don't forget to subscribe to the Venetian Poker Live YouTube channel. If you subscribe, that's how you can get alerted of all the stuff that's happening. Never miss a show, never miss a stream, and that's the best way to ultimately consume poker from Venetian. So full house here on the flop. Must be nice for Martin.
Yeah, there's not much to say. This hand just going to end here, but I mean, why not check back a full house, right? Your head's up. You got every damn card in the deck. How can your opponent have anything to call you here? Check. Let them catch up. I think that's kind of an error there to bet your full house.
So the two trading pots early on, one to Bradley Gafford, one to Paul Lozano Martin. Gafford, a poker player out of San Diego. Lozano Martin's a poker player out of Spain, but I see Lozano Martin plenty around town in all the different tournaments that I feel like he just lives here. Maybe he, made the trip over.
I think he did relocate here in his bio.
Well, good for him. Vegas is the place to be if you want to play some poker. So Gafford limping here. King, Jack on the button. Martin checks his option with 4-3. Becomes ace, 8, deuce. King high the best hand. Martin's drawing to a wheel. Check, check, 10 of spades on the turn. The only spade out there is the 3 of spades in Martin's hand. He checks again.
King, Jack, no spade. Probably just want to take my showdown value. If I had a spade, I think I would start betting.
He does check, and the king of spades comes in on the river. That gives a flush, albeit a small one, to Martin, and a pair of kings to Gafford. Gafford just going to check back, but Martin's going to take this one
Spade?
with his flush. Spade is correct.
Yeah, interesting to see how some of those hands play out. With the flush coming, and all that, you know, maybe there's a big blind or two missed in value, some of those spots. We've seen Martin check the 6 of diamonds in that one spot against Adam Adler moments ago, and now checking again there.
It always definitely seems like there's almost a kind of a reset period when you get to heads up in terms of like feeling your opponent out, just because the heads up dynamic is so different than the rest of the tournament. So, you know, sometimes you come into the start of a final table, there's a little bit of that feeling out. How's everyone going to approach the final table? Then you get to heads up play when you're really forced to play every hand, but you also kind of want to be like, okay, how's this guy going to approach heads up play? What's his early strategy? So let's just kind of not just go bonkers right out of the gate. Let's kind of feel each other out. So maybe that's just some of the thinking here early on. But, of course, as you go, things always tend to open up, loosen up, and people will start getting a bit more active.
Make it 700 in total.
So a limp here on the button from Martin to start this hand. Gafford comes in with a raise to 700K. With his king-queen off out of the big blind, Martin calls. So 1.65 million out there, and here we go. 10, 8, 3. That 8 connecting with Martin, giving him the best hand here. Gafford out of position, but he was the pre-flop aggressor.
King Queen, good showdownable hand. Have a heart. I think checking and calling a bet is reasonable. And sure, if you want to take your betting lead to the turn, that seems fine as well with this hand.
Bet.
He does bet.
Although these textures, 10, 8, 3, you know, the 3 is kind of inconsequential, but the 10, 8 hit part of our opponent's limping range here.
So just slightly under half pot here, 800K from Gafford.
Now, there's also something you could have thought about here if you're Gafford, of maybe having some different sizings, because look at his stack to pot ratio. It's almost 1-to-1. I can imagine some turn cards where I'm happy to pile in a lot of money, like a jack, like a heart, an ace even potentially. This 5 of diamonds is a little more difficult to navigate.
So Martin did call, which pushed the pot up over 3.2 million. Gafford comes with the check here. Martin checking back. Deuce of spades on the river, so the best hand belongs to Lozano Martin, as long as this one goes to showdown.
And if you're sitting here with King Queen high, you don't love it,
Check.
but maybe there's a universe you beat 7-9, you beat Jack 9, you beat Queen 9, you beat some missed hearts. Would those bluff now? Likely. So there's probably not a great pathway to showdown here with King Queen. And if you have an 8, I'd say it's good enough for a value bet. Surely our opponent would have bet something better by now.
Well, Martin is going to his chips, and that looks like 2 million to me.
How much?
2 million.
And it's just strictly a bluff catcher we have with a blocker that we probably don't love with the Queen of Hearts. It blocks some of our opponent's calls on the flop that we would dominate, like a Queen 9, like a Queen Jack, like a heart draw. So it makes sense to make that fold.
Gafford does not get sticky there, but ultimately loses that pot. And Paul Lozano Martin is up over 16 million.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Has a chip lead that is greater than 4-1 over Bradley Gafford here. Heads up play in the $1,600 buy-in UltimateStack tournament at the Venetian Resort, Las Vegas. There you see that fabulous winged lion trophy. I mean, those are sweet. Those are definitely sweet.
I need one. And with these stacks dwindling, this is going to be more of an all-in confrontation match than post-flop like we were seeing.
Well, King Queen off isn't a bad one to get into an all-in confrontation match with, should it come to that.
yeah, how do I get the money in here? Do I want to limp? Do I want to min raise? I don't think shoving is a good option. I think the other ones to entice are better.
Gafford is going to come with a raise here. 525. King 4 suited for Martin.
And if you're in Martin shoes, you're saying, okay, I got king high. Let's see a flop. And maybe you have even other dreams of being more aggressive here. But yeah, I think call's pretty natural.
Martin does come along, 1.3 million out there in the middle. Ace, ace, king, a couple of clubs, and 1 heart. Both players making 2 pair. The queen kicker very much dominating for Gafford here.
And this is a spot we can remove almost all the aces out of Martin's range, right? I only had 14 big blinds when I raised the button, or whatever it was, 15 big blinds. A lot of ace-x offsuit would have just been all in. So the only aces I'm really worried about are some of the suited combos, which are going to be reduced dramatically as we see 2 aces on this flop.
Gafford comes with the minimum bet here, very much trying to just make sure his opponent comes along. Probably very much feels like he just has the best of it, wants to get value. Martin does come along, of course, flopped pretty well himself. Jack here on the turn.
So if we remove a lot of the ace-x from the region of Martin, the range that we're targeting now is another king, and then some of those hands like queen, jack, jack 10, club draws. So there's still a lot of hands that make it to the turn that can call a value bet, specifically a king or a jack now who just thinks we might be bluffing. So I don't think we're going to see any heroics until potentially the river.
625 is the wager here from Gafford. Still with the best of it and just trying to drive that value.
I guess the one question we could ask ourselves here, Donnie, can Gafford find a value bet on non-scary river cards like the 7 of diamonds?
Yeah, 7 of diamonds does seem very much like a blank. Yes, your opponent could have queen 10 here. That said, you block it, which helps.
I mean, this is a super sick value find, but I think when you really construct these ranges, it makes sense to value bet this hand. This is probably the worst hand I'm value betting, king, queen specifically. Any other king I would just check because I'm playing aces and kings with a jack. So this hand specifically, bottom of my value betting range
All
here.
in.
And there is
And
the jam.
wow, I'm clapping up for that because that is next level. That is understanding my opponent doesn't have an ace here, and that is me trying to put them in an uncomfortable spot for me to double up and take control of this heads-up match. So that is phenomenal find. Phenomenal.
Now, earlier we did see Gafford triple off with aces against Lozano Martin when he had queen jack on the flop came queen 3-3. So in that situation that happened, Martin correctly assessed the river and folded to the jam. Can he also find the fold here?
Yeah.
Kind of a similar sort of setup. Your opponent's going all streets.
Yeah, look, this is an awful spot. Your opponent just has every ace in the deck. They have every good king. They have full houses. They have straights. So, yes, this isn't comfortable, but when you think of the grand scheme of things, it's a fold typically.
He does find the fold. It's never easy to lay down a pretty good hand, especially in heads-up play when, you know, you don't make that good of hands all the time.
Yeah.
But Lozano Martin does stay disciplined there. Still has a pretty hefty chip lead. But that one going to the way of Gafford. And it probably feels pretty good if you're Bradley Gafford, able to pull in that pot. I know you ultimately didn't get called on the river, but you were able to get value before that.
Yeah, Derek.
You pretty much 1.8x your stack or so. So, you know, it's a good, like, confidence boost in a way, right?
Yeah, that's a nice pot. And again, to find that bet on the river, you know, Derek in the chat says bet too much. It's questionable potential. But anyway, moving forward, we have action.
Yeah, now he picks up 2 kings. Martin here with a button limp. with ace-7 off. And Gafford's got the Cowboys here.
And with these stacks and an offsuit ace, when faced with a raise, you might just see
700.
ace-7 pile it in. And king's happy to get off to the races here.
So 700 here from Gafford.
All in.
And there's the jam.
Let me double check.
Quick check. And there's the call. And here we go.
100%.
I don't know.
Martin saying once again, he's 100%
I've held
confident.
Every one of these.
He was able to crack the queens of Adam Adler. Can he crack the kings of
How did
Bradley
you do it? So
Gafford?
you just win all ins the whole time, or did
Yeah.
you just
Yeah.
win all ins? Yeah, same.
I mean, this is a huge all-in. This is what, like, how much money is this all-in worth? 20,000 at least?
Ace
Ah.
right there. Ace 6-5.
Grim.
And Martin comes from behind on the flop once again with only a single overcard to his opponent's big pair. Can he hold on from here? If he does, he is the champion. 10 of hearts on the turn. King and a king only will save Bradley Gafford. The river card is the queen of hearts, and that is going to end things here. Paul Lozano Martin is the champion of the $1,600 buy-in ultimate stack here at the Venetian Resort, Las Vegas. $131,000 for him.
Ace, ace, king,
The
jack,
Winged
7,
Lion Trophy.
King 4.
King 4. Yeah.
You?
And all the bragging rights, baby.
Nice.
Bradley Gafford finishes in second place, just shy of $94,000 for him. He started the day as the short stack with just 8 big blinds, so all things considered, quite a nice result for him. And that's going to do it for us. My name is Donnie Peters. I had Tristan Wade alongside of me. We greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the Venetian Poker Live channel on your way out the door. And then tune in Saturday for cash game action here from Venetian Poker Live. See you guys.
See ya.